Okay, I guess I'm ready to begin. So I want to start with, I guess, a couple of housekeeping issues. First of all, I'm doing this on YouTube. I'll read all the questions that are posted on Reddit, but recently there's been a big problem in the Bitcoin ecosystem with people intentionally taking words that people type and then taking them completely out of context and don't give the full context and twist them around to mean the exact opposite thing that they actually mean. So recently, a really big example of that, people have been trying to twist around some of the things that I've said and make them into an attack on Andreas. I actually want to dedicate my entire AMA to Andreas for being one of the most eloquent spokespeople in all of Bitcoin. The entire crypto coin ecosystem is better off because you've been out there spreading the good word. So special thanks to you, Andreas. Even though people out there have tried to twist the words that I've said into attacks on you, there were nothing of the sort. You're definitely one of the best speakers that the entire ecosystem has. So thank you for all your efforts. I donated to you recently as well. My comment in regards to you not already being a millionaire in terms of Bitcoin at that time wasn't an attack. It was just a statement of fact. So anyhow, special thanks to you, Andreas. This entire AMA is dedicated to you. So with that, I guess we'll start with some questions. So forgive me if I'm moving different screens around and looking at different things, but we're going to start, I guess, we'll start with the oldest questions first, I guess, and there's already 148 comments in the thread on RBTC, and I guess it's worth pointing out that we're having this on RBTC because it wouldn't be possible on our Bitcoin. Our Bitcoin is completely censored. If you go and post anything over there that's not in line with the Blockstreamer core roadmap, they will literally delete your post. In the description for my AMA on our BTC, which is not censored, and the mod logs are open, so anybody can verify that for themselves. I posted a link to a fantastic article that describes just how much censorship is going on. And not only censorship, but they actually will, if somebody posts one thing and then the next guy posts something saying, I disagree with that and here's why, and then the person below that says, I agree, agreeing with the person who disagreed with the initial comment, they've actually deleted the middle comment, so it looks like the person saying, I agree, is agreeing to the exact opposite of what he was actually agreeing to. So not only is there like censorship going on, there's actual like manipulation of what people are actually saying, which is really, really too bad. So the first question is, where's the video stream? I'll reply to that, or actually somebody else already replied to that and gave the links to it. So thank you for you guys. So, and I'll just read, and when we get to an actual question, I'll repeat the question so you guys know what I'm answering, and then we'll go from there. So the first question from Yoga Fit Girl, perhaps a girl in the cryptocurrency ecosystem. She says, in a huge market crash, do I think Tether would hold its 1-to-1 US dollar value? I don't know. I know I've seen lots and lots of posts on the internet here talking about Tether and how there's a bunch of problems there. I don't know. I don't know enough about it. I tend to try to not yell fire if I don't know that there is a fire. There definitely seems to be some smoke and lots of people saying things, but at the same time, I know firsthand just what it's like to be attacked online with people saying things that aren't true. So maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Do your own research. In a huge market crash, I think Tether, if the market crashes with cryptos in general, I think Tether probably would hold its 1-to-1 value unless Bitfinex itself, or the company behind Tether itself, were to be attacked or in trouble in some way. And if that was the case, then I don't think it would hold that value. So, and lots of people were replying saying they also want to hear my thoughts on Tether. So the short answer is I don't really know, to be honest. So. So this is an interesting question from Dizo Nutso. He says, for a question, did you believe Bitcoin, I think he means would succeed, or was it that you wanted it to succeed but weren't sure of it? Weren't so sure if it would actually work. So I guess when I first, heard about Bitcoin or first jumped in with both feet, and I think it was February of 2011, I was pretty darn confident it was going to work. And of course, I wanted it to succeed as well. So when I was a young man, I read all sorts of science fiction books. And in these books, they had this, online digital cash that people could use and wasn't controlled by any government or bank or anybody at all. And it enabled all sorts of really exciting, interesting things. So just like I want, humans to go to Mars and beyond, because that's exciting, interesting stuff. I want humans to have money that's not controllable by anybody, because that leads to exciting, interesting things. So if it wasn't Bitcoin, I still want something else to come along and do all those things. And thankfully now there's 1,001 different cryptocurrencies out there, and I'm sure at least one of them is going to fulfill that need. But when Bitcoin was the only one, I was very, I guess, confident that if it wasn't Bitcoin, this was going to get things started, and things were going to start moving very, very quickly. And sure enough, here we are 7 years later, and things have moved really, really quickly. So I guess I can't say that I was 100% for sure it was going to take over the planet in terms of money, and I'm still not 100% sure of that, but I was sure, I was 100% sure without any doubt in my mind whatsoever that some people, and a lot of people, would start to use it as money. And sure enough, that has been the case. At some point, we'll get to the scaling issue, and we'll talk a little bit about how some people don't want it to be used as money, but I figure we'll stream for at least an hour or two here, so we'll have plenty of time for that. So anyhow, I'll keep going down and go on to the next question. This person from Calm Down Stupid says, good luck. I'm supposed to be working, so I can't really watch the video, but I'll try to check it out. Oh, there isn't a question there, but I thought that was funny. So if you're supposed to be working, I would advise you to work. Your employer is paying you to do something. If you're not doing what they're paying you to do, you're basically defrauding them. So this will be on YouTube, so you can watch it at any point for years and years to come. So please don't defraud anybody to watch my video live. Do what you're contractually obligated to be doing. So somebody with a name I won't repeat live on my live stream here says, I am a something king AMA. Thanks, Roger. I'm very excited about Shapeshift. When will this be available? So he's referring to the Shapeshift integration into the Bitcoin.com wallet. We've now surpassed more than 1.1 million users of the Bitcoin.com wallet. And I think it was last night or this morning, I posted a screenshot of the next version of the app that will have Shapeshift built right into the app, so that people can trade their Bitcoin core coins that are slow, expensive, and unreliable for Bitcoin Cash coins that are cheap to use, fast, and reliable. And I have a hard time imagining people going the opposite direction. Maybe they will, but I think the vast majority of people will be using it to convert their Bitcoin core coins into Bitcoin Cash. And the question is, when will it be available? I think by the end of the year. We're doing some of the final testing right now, and look for that soon. So I'm reading the next question here. So the next question says, from Strong as a Pony. Hi, Roger. I'm from India, and I'm excited about any cryptocurrency that offers cheap, permissionless, and fast cross-border transactions because of the strict currency conversion laws here. I'd like to spend my crypto rather than just hold it. The problem in India is that we end up paying a 5% markup when buying into most cryptocurrencies, which mean that spending it costs us more than a PayPal transaction. What do you see as a solution for emerging countries like India to gain equal price access to cryptocurrencies? Because right now we're being price gouged by middlemen. Thanks. So I'm not Indian. I don't live in India, so I don't know the exact details of what's going on there. But in most places in the world, when there's an item that can be delivered instantly, basically for free, and moved anywhere in the world, if there's a price discrepancy locally, it's probably because something else is going on with the traditional money rails that you're using to buy it. So as I mentioned, I don't know a lot about India, but from what I understand, the government likes to keep a tight control on the flow of money in and out of the country. And that, if anything, just makes cryptocurrencies that much more useful. But I guess I would advise you look for an employer that is willing to pay you in Bitcoin, or start your own business that accepts cryptocurrencies and just start using cryptocurrencies directly, so that you're not even earning rupees anymore. You're just earning the cryptocurrency directly, and then you won't have to worry about any of those middlemen, and you can start spending the cryptocurrencies directly. I guess that's one of the things that has me a bit frustrated in the whole scaling debate, is that we want a closed loop system where people earn their income in cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin Cash, and spend their income in cryptocurrencies, and you don't need to convert back to legacy payment systems. And ideally, you won't even need to use like a Bitcoin-based credit card or any of these things. So just be using the Bitcoin directly. And I guess that's a real difference of opinion. So let me reply to this guy. So let's see. Somebody else says there's always been a similar premium in Australia too. Not sure why. Perhaps our banks want 5% when sending funds overseas. Not sure. So Kraken Pipe says, can you talk a bit about colored coins? Would these have their own circulating supply from Bitcoin Cash? What are the advantages of having something like this? So yesterday, I think it was, I posted a link to an original colored coins video from, I don't know, maybe 2013-ish or something like that. And basically colored coins were the very, very first idea for having tokens on the Bitcoin blockchain. And so now we see that whole ecosystem just going crazy on Ethereum with the ERC20 tokens, and people are tokenizing all sorts of things and trading around and doing all sorts of amazing things. All that would have been on Bitcoin had the blocks not become full, had the core developers not intentionally made the fees high, made double spending easy, and basically tried to intentionally push off all these layer 2 things that were trying to be built on top of the Bitcoin protocol. So instead, they've moved to things like Ethereum and Waves, and there's a bunch of other token platforms. Maybe and hopefully a lot of these will be coming back to Bitcoin Cash. Time will tell, but if you haven't read about colored coins, it's really interesting, great stuff. It's been around for years and years and years, and like many things, it was killed off on Bitcoin by the high fee full block policy of Bitcoin Core and Blockstream. So Brooklyn Hipster says, hi, Roger, thanks for doing this. In a recent statement, you referenced censorship supporting core trolls loving to intentionally take things out of context to twist them around to mean something completely different than what they actually do. I was wondering, what the hell does that mean? So there's been a bunch of examples of it. In the beginning of the video, I mentioned how a bunch of people tried to twist around my words to make it sound like I was attacking Andreas. And if people misconstrued it to mean that, I apologize. That certainly that was not my intent. This entire AMA is dedicated to Andreas to say thank you, Andreas, for helping spread Bitcoin to so many people around the world and being such an amazing spokesman for cryptocurrency. One request of Andreas is I would like to see him speak out a bit more about the censorship that's been going on our Bitcoin. If Bitcoin is supposed to be censorship-resistant money for the entire world, the people that are involved in it shouldn't be engaging in censorship. And unfortunately, that's exactly what's been happening on our Bitcoin. It's been happening on bitcointalk.org. And bitcoin.org at this point is a pack of lies as well. If you go and read the front page, which I'll actually do while we're right here, I'll read it to you guys live. The things that it says right on the front page, fast peer-to-peer transactions. Well, I think the average confirmation time for Bitcoin transactions now are hours, and oftentimes it can be days or weeks or even never. It says worldwide payments. Well, yeah, that's true if your payment still goes through, but right now it's really, really hard. And oftentimes Bitcoin payments are more expensive and potentially slower than traditional bank wires or Western unions and things like that. And then right on the front page of bitcoin.org, it also claims low processing fees. Well, that's certainly a lie. The average Bitcoin fee, I think, is in the tens of dollars. And for anybody that's running a business, selling t-shirts, for example, or anything at all, you're very, very often paying hundreds or even thousands of dollars in fees for a single Bitcoin transaction. And a lot of people don't seem to understand that. So most businesses are using multi-signature wallets because they don't want one employee running away with all the funds. So multi-signature transactions take a little bit more space in the block than a conventional Bitcoin transaction. And if you're running a business, you're accepting payments from multiple customers. So let's say you're running a t-shirt business selling, BCH please t-shirts. Let's say these t-shirts are $20 each. If you sell 100 t-shirts at $20 each, that's $2,000. Let's say your t-shirt supplier doesn't yet accept cryptocurrency, so you have to convert that $2,000 into fiat and maybe pay him for the t-shirts. To move the $2,000 that you receive $20 at a time over the course of 100 payments, it's probably not even movable at this point on the Bitcoin network. It's going to cost you close to $2,000 in fees to move the $2,000. So the low processing fees is an absolute lie, and that's right there on the front page of bitcoin.org. But at the same time, everything that's described on the front page of bitcoin.org there completely applies to Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash transactions are certainly fast and peer-to-peer. They definitely work worldwide. And of course, there are low processing fees with Bitcoin Cash. The Bitcoin Cash transaction fee is a third of a penny. So if you were to sell 100 t-shirts for Bitcoin Cash and you wanted to move your $2,000 somewhere else, it would cost you about a penny to move them. That certainly is a low processing fee, whereas Bitcoin Core, it's a pack of lies at this point. So so I guess that's what I'm talking about. People love to twist around things that I say and get them to mean things that I certainly didn't say. So another example of that was yesterday somebody was trying to troll me, and what did they say? They said something along the lines of, why are you hating on Andreas, or why are you I know what it was. He accused me of trying to economically damage Andreas. And this was in a thread where people were complaining about these core trolls that are intentionally leaving the Bitcoin.com wallet, which is a fantastic wallet that supports both Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Cash. You'd have to be, sorry to say something so mean, but you basically have to be retarded to get confused as to which wallet is which in here. And so I'll show you how clear the distinction is between the two wallets here as soon as this pulls up on this phone that I think is okay. We'll actually make a new wallet. I had actually deleted the Bitcoin Core wallet because I never use it anymore, but we'll make it so you can see when the wallet still has both, and it automatically makes both from day one. It will look like this. So here we have, if you guys can see this on the live stream, so the top one says Bitcoin Cash wallets, and the bottom one says Bitcoin Core wallets. And you can see they're labeled very, very distinctly. They're different colors. They're in different sections. There's no way you're going to get them confused at all. And this is just a test phone that I use for testing things. So anyhow, somebody said, why am I trying to economically damage Andreas when people are complaining about the one-star reviews that are coming in for that app? Simply because people are upset that the app allows you to use Bitcoin Cash in addition to Bitcoin Core. And so I pointed out to that person, hey, I'm not trying to economically damage Andreas. If anything, he should thank me. My tweet about it made him a millionaire. And I suppose I can see how people misconstrued that, but it wasn't meant to be an attack on Andreas. It's simply a factual truth. If I hadn't tweeted that, and if people hadn't gotten in an uproar about that, he probably wouldn't have gotten the $1 million+ in donations. So I suspect Andreas knows that it wasn't an attack on him to begin with. And I suspect he's pretty darn happy that some people got so riled up about it and donated him $1 million. I think anybody would be happy if a bunch of people come together and donate $1 million to them. So Andreas deserves it. Thank you, Andreas. But no thank you to the people that intentionally tried to twist around my words to mean something that they didn't mean. So, and they did that just again yesterday by linking to the post without giving the context to what I was replying to with that. And our censored our Bitcoin is in a bit of a fuss about that today, whereas anybody that wants to go and post the truth over there is likely to have their post deleted. And if you don't believe me, if you're unsure, go ahead and read those articles by John Block about that, and look at the Bitcoin, the RBTC moderation log is completely public, so anybody can see it. If our Bitcoin didn't have anything to hide, they would make their moderation log public as well, but it's not. It's completely censored, and it's just a huge amount of posts over there are deleted. So I think I should have brought more water. The water bottle was 2/3 empty when I started. So so Kurt00 made a long post that I assume is a question in there, and I'll just read it for you guys as we go, even though I haven't read it yet, so we don't have dead air. So he says, we all agree that Bitcoin Cash most fits Satoshi's definition of Bitcoin. Bitcoin.com should be promoting mainly the real Bitcoin, not the store of value Bitcoin. When do you plan to explain to readers about the differences between Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Core, and why Bitcoin.com will be dedicated to the Bitcoin that adheres to Satoshi's definition of Bitcoin? Part 2, if you do number 1, then you should also explain to readers the history of Bitcoin scaling debate, infighting, and eventual divorce into Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Core. And he links to an article that it looks like he's the author of that I don't think I've read yet, but I'm going to open it in another tab, so I'll be able to read it at some point. And then he goes on to say, because of this divorce, Bitcoin holders will come to Bitcoin.com to troll and bash on the commenting section. If newbies understand the history of and divorce, and they will understand the trolls are bashing Bitcoin Cash. Otherwise, they might think that there is legitimate criticism towards Bitcoin Cash. One of the promises of Bitcoin was to be able to use a trustless currency. However, users need to trust wallets. There are news about scam wallets that are stealing coins, such as My BTG Wallet, Bitcoin Gold, and Coin Pouch wallets. They blame bitcoingold.org for publishing a link to the scam wallet and for not having audited the wallet beforehand. Has anyone reviewed or audited the source code of any Bitcoin Cash wallets? If so, how can we be confident that they have? Even if the wallet is open source, how do we know that the executable was compiled from the code on GitHub? Which wallet is safest for offline storage? Thank you thank you for everything you've done. So lots and lots of questions there. I guess we'll start with part one, like why doesn't Bitcoin.com explain the reason for the divorce and the difference between Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Core? We're definitely trying to put all of that online. We have a substantial team with Bitcoin.com helping to do all that. So if you go over there, if you go to our knowledge base section, actually, there's a lot of information about what's going on there. And we actually have a fantastic article explaining why we think Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin and Bitcoin Core is not. So you can go over there and read all of it. And I definitely agree we need to get the word out in regards to all of that. And anybody who's been around Bitcoin for a while, I think tends to realize that, or just spend a few minutes reading bitcoin.org or reading the Bitcoin white paper and ask yourself, which version of Bitcoin is this describing? And it's very, very clearly, it's describing Bitcoin Cash. So in regards to wallets and open source and how do we know which ones are safe? So Bitcoin.com, we review every single wallet that we list available for download on Bitcoin.com. So not only do we have our own Bitcoin.com wallet, which is completely open source, everyone's welcome to go over to GitHub there and take a look. But all the other wallets that we list, hopefully most of them are open source, but even the ones that aren't, we know the people behind the companies and we're sure that they're a real company and they're not intentionally trying to be a scam of anybody at all. But good advice as to how to store your coins and where to hold them. Don't put all your coins in one wallet. Spread them out amongst a number of wallets. That way, if your one wallet gets hacked, you still have your other wallets that weren't hacked. So, and for offline storage, hardware wallets are good. So here's a plug for Trezor, right? So go and buy a Trezor or go and buy a Ledger or go and buy go and buy a Keep Key, right? So we'll advertise everything here while we're at it. So yeah, all of these things are available, I suppose. So go and spend $100 to get one of those. It's well worth it. So let's see. It's the next comment or question. So it looks like Todu, who I don't think I've ever met in person. He's answering the other guy's question about how to store things offline. So Kurt's replying to that guy. And then here's another part 3 question from MTRYCZ. And if you want to follow along with me where I'm reading here too, if you go to the thread on our BTC and sort them from oldest to newest, then you'll see where I'm at. So and so the MTRYCZ, no idea how to pronounce that, says trustless means that you can inspect the code, which is open source, and compile it for yourself from source, if you are keen to do so. Both things require technical knowledge, though. Also, a thing called reproducible builds exists. So it looks like he's just answering the same question there as well. So, Christopher 0034 says, Roger, you previously said that Bitcoin is in a bubble. Do you think cryptocurrency is in a bubble? If so, do you think Bitcoin Cash would lose value during a crash? In other words, should new investors be afraid to join Bitcoin Cash now? So I do think Bitcoin Core is in a bubble at this moment. The utility has been completely destroyed. In fact, why don't we do an example or a demonstration of this here? So I should have prepared a little bit better for the live stream here, but let me I have some paper wallets that are already printed here. Let me check and make sure that there's no money on this one already. And if there is or isn't, I'll send some to it. I'm going to give away free money on the live stream. So get your Bitcoin.com wallet to be able to scan the private key here that I'm going to display in just a moment here. And we'll see. Okay, so I found some money on this wallet already. So I think this one I set up previously. I was going to use this wallet on Bloomberg the other week. And I was going to give away both Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Cash live on the air. And I promoted that in advance on Reddit. I said that I was going to do that. And the lawyers over at Bloomberg heard that I was going to give away money live on the air. And they decided that that's probably illegal due to some sort of silly anti-money transmitter licensing law stuff, nonsense from a bunch of people that I've never met. So anyhow, the lawyers asked me not to do that. So I still have this private wallet here. Here's the public key. The first digit's probably a 1. It got cut off there when I printed it. But anyhow, there's the private key. So I'm gonna scan this and see how much money is on this address here in both Bitcoin Cash. You guys can do the same at the same time. I think I put $100 of both on it, but it was like a week or two ago. So anyhow, there's $100 of both Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Core on here, I believe. Give me 1 second, and we will double check that. So I have it in my clipboard, and we'll check. Check blockchain.info first for the Bitcoin value. Yeah, so this is the demonstration I was going to give live on Bloomberg. Bloomberg doesn't, the Bloomberg viewers don't get it anymore. So, but because now you guys do. So there is currently $157 worth of Bitcoin Core on this address. Oh no, what happened here? Here we go. And not letting me pop it over there. Anyhow, there we go. And so anyhow, $150 in Bitcoin Core. And we have our own Bitcoin.com Bitcoin Cash block explorer that we're working on, and we're waiting to release it to the public so that it's really nice. So there was $100 of each when I put it on the wallet, and the Bitcoin Cash value is so I guess from the time I loaded this wallet to the moment, the price of Bitcoin Cash went up a heck of a lot more than Bitcoin Core. So there's oh no, it looks like other people contributed additional money. So that's what went on here. So because I think I told people in advance we were going to give away money. So anyhow, there's $157 of Bitcoin Core that I put on at $5 at a time, like you were selling coffee. They're currently at $7.89 at a time. So there's 20 transactions for $157 on this private key that I'm about to display. And there's $392 of Bitcoin Cash. So that's what, over $500 is I'm about to give away here as soon as I display the private key. But the fun part about this is that whoever claims the Bitcoin Core probably isn't going to get any of it. It's all going to get eaten up in fees. So instead of them receiving the $157, maybe they'll get $10 if they're lucky. And then the person that's claiming the Bitcoin Cash, they're going to get all $392 of it. So are you guys ready for the private key? Here goes. And if you're wondering where we made this wallet, we made this paper wallet on tools.bitcoin.com. We have an open source paper wallet generator. So here comes the private key for the over $500 total of Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Cash. So go ahead and scan that with your bitcoin.com wallet. It can claim both the Bitcoin Core and the Bitcoin Cash coins from it. You just hit the scan button right at the bottom. And that's probably been on the screen long enough for somebody to claim it. And we can go and check the block explorers here. And we'll see exactly how much it costs for someone to claim it. So again, there was $157. It looks nobody claimed it yet. So hopefully that means the live stream. Oh, there it goes. Somebody claimed it. I was worried the live stream was broken if nobody claimed the $157 yet, but somebody just claimed it. And the fees that they paid to claim that were, I don't know what wallet they used to claim it, but here is your absolute proof that Bitcoin Core is completely broken here. So they paid 272 Satoshis per byte, right, which is on the low side of what the network fees are at the moment. There was $157 on the address. They had to spend $151 in fees to receive their $5.80. So whoever claimed that money with the address 3NNXSD, blah, 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 they got $5 out of the $155 that was available, and that's due to Bitcoin having full blocks and high fees. 100% proof that Bitcoin is completely broken. Whereas And it might take a while for that transaction to go through too. We'll be on the live stream for a while, so we'll keep an eye on it and see how long it takes for that transaction to go through. So for the person that claimed just under $400 in Bitcoin Cash, oh, it's still on the address, or the block explorer that I'm using didn't update yet. So I'm using the bitcoin.com beta or alpha explorer, so it's possible it didn't update yet. So I'll check. Another block explorer just to make sure. I would suspect somebody already claimed it, but let's see. Oh, maybe not. So here, we'll display the private key for anybody that didn't get the Bitcoin Cash yet, or maybe all the block explorers that are based on BitPay's Insight, or maybe it doesn't update until the next block. So anyhow, there's the private key again. Anyhow, it's going to cost about a penny for someone to claim all the Bitcoin Cash. Whereas Bitcoin Core, it literally cost them, it cost them over $150 to claim the $155 in Bitcoin Core. So if that's not broken, I don't know what is. So the original question is Bitcoin in a bubble? Well, the reason I started investing in Bitcoin is because it allows you to send and receive payments with anyone else anywhere in the world instantly, basically for free. And what's the reason you need to send payments with anyone anywhere in the world? It's because you're buying and selling things, or buying a service, or selling a service. And services cost anything from $1 to millions of dollars. But very, very clearly, Bitcoin is not usable for $7 transactions anymore. It's not even really usable for $50 or $100 transactions anymore. It's completely broken. So is Bitcoin in a bubble because of that? Yeah, the utility there has been completely broken. If you can't use it in commerce, it's not useful as a store of value. So everything in the world that's useful as a store of value has some secondary use case. It can't only be used as a store of value. So gold is used in all sorts of electronics and jewelry and dental fillings, and has all sorts of other uses all over the world dating back thousands and thousands of years. People like to think of homes as a store of value. Well, homes aren't only a store of value. They have a secondary use case. You can live in them. Dollars aren't only a store of value. They have a secondary use case. You can spend them everywhere and trade them for other things. So not only are they a medium of exchange, they're also a store of value. So with Bitcoin Core, I hear all these people saying that it can be just a store of value in and of itself and without having any other secondary use case. I think they're completely wrong about that. So that's where we're at. And there we go. So I see the Bitcoin Cash just moved. I think that's because a block was found as well. And we can check what the fees were for that. So the fees to move the Bitcoin Cash were, here we go, 0.0014, whatever Bitcoin. Let me get out the calculator here. So to move the $400 or $500 in Bitcoin Cash, they paid $3. And to be honest, I think whatever wallet they were using, they paid too much. Is my very, very, in fact, I'm sure they paid too much. So even so, they paid $3 versus $150 to move this about the same amount of money in Bitcoin Core versus Bitcoin Cash. So, and actually, to be honest, there were way, way, way more inputs on the Bitcoin Cash movement. So if that had been Bitcoin Core, it would have been even more expensive to move Bitcoin Core. So there's a real world demonstration of just how much more useful Bitcoin Cash is in commerce. It cost, somebody paid $3, but they overpaid, to be honest, to move the Bitcoin Cash. And people paid over $150 to move the Bitcoin Core. And the Bitcoin Cash transaction has already confirmed. And the Bitcoin Core transaction, I think it might take a long, long time for it to confirm. And in fact, there's a good chance somebody is going to double spend it as well, because Bitcoin Core allows you to double spend transactions now, whereas anybody who's trying to use it as payments realizes that that's a bad idea. We shouldn't allow payments to be double spent even after they've been broadcasted to the network. So yeah, Bitcoin Core's utility in commerce has been incredibly undermined, and has been undermined intentionally by people that don't have any background or understanding of business or economics. We want Bitcoin to be fast, cheap to use, and reliable, but instead these people are intentionally making it slow, expensive to use, and unreliable. And so I think at the end of the day, it doesn't look like those problems are going to be fixed on Bitcoin Core. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they get the Lightning Network working tomorrow and it saves all of these problems and makes everything work wonderfully well. But software development is hard. and developing financial software that has to work perfectly all the time, or people lose money, is even more difficult. So I'm not very optimistic that they're going to get the Lightning Network working in a usable way anytime soon at all. And we've already seen it. Bitcoins used to basically have 100% market share. It used to be the only cryptocurrency in town. And as a direct result of Bitcoin Core and Blockstream intentionally making Bitcoin less useful in commerce, now Bitcoin Core only has around 50% market share. And depending on the metric, even less. It's because people are busy using other cryptocurrencies that actually are useful for them in doing things. Whereas if Bitcoin Core isn't the most useful one, well, people are going to use something else. Elvira, spelled with numbers for vowels, says, hey, I'm desperately trying to get some original BCH Police swag for my husband and our business. Do you have an official supplier or someone we should contact? I wish I could remember the name of the place, but Google knows everything. So I'm Googling BCH Please shirt. And yeah, Just Quit, that's the guy. And special thing, I have no idea who Just Quit is on our Bitcoin, I'm sorry, our BTC or that guy. But I see him around. Like, I really like and appreciate the things that I see you posting. So special thanks to Just Quit, whoever you are. So and anyhow, if you Google it, it comes up the top result in Google, and you can order all the shirts from there. I think this one isn't from there, but we ordered a bunch from there as well. So anyhow, good advice for anybody when you have a question. Google it. Like, more often than not, you'll find the answer right there, and it's an amazing, incredibly powerful tool for all of humankind. It's thanks to Google, the entire world's rate of economic growth is increasing because all of these questions can be answered right there. Oh, and I see the very next post was from Just Quit, and he says, hi, I made those, and he gives a link to his URL. So Just Quit, JESSQUIT.threadless.com. So thank you, Just Quit, for making those, and thank you for being such a fantastic participant in RBTC. And then other people are saying they recommend the shirt, they love it. This guy says, no option to pay with Bitcoin Cash. We're very disappointed. I think we'll see about fixing that. So actually, I'll tell a story here. So we used to have a fantastic store at store.bitcoin.com, selling all sorts of shirts and swag and this and that. It was run by a guy, Stefan Macaskill, based out of New Zealand. And I guess I'll tell the whole story here. So I thought that he would be the right guy to run the store, so we gave him access to the whole domain name. I paid for everything to set up everything, for all the inventory. I paid for everything to get done. And there was supposed to be a revenue share of all the merchandise that was sold there. You would think that would be great for everybody, but it turned out that this person was a big-time small block supporter, big-time Blockstream and Core supporter. And rather than just tell me, like, hey, Roger, I think we have a difference of opinion here, and we should talk about it, he certainly didn't reach out to me directly. And I didn't have any way of finding out that he was unhappy about that, other than he was using later on I found out that he was using my Twitter account, Bitcoin Store, which was the Twitter account that I set up with the initial bitcoinstore.com in 2012, which was the first website in the world to start accepting Bitcoin for more than 500,000 consumer electronics products at cheaper than Amazon for most of them, which was what really set off the big wave of merchant adoption that we had up until recently when Bitcoin became unusable for commerce. But anyhow, he was tweeting out from my Twitter account all sorts of pro Blockstream, pro full block, pro core, pro Segway propaganda from my Twitter account. And not only did he do that, he then redirected like all the stuff on store.bitcoin.com. If you clicked any of the links there, it would wind up going to his other website to do the checkout and process it. And basically he was funneling away all the traffic from my bitcoin.com domain name to his other domain name and doing all the sales to that and keeping that all completely secret from me. And like, that's pretty disingenuous and pretty bad business practice, and isn't something that an honest person would do. But it's way worse than that, actually. So we had our MailChimp email list, and I forget how many emails were in there, maybe 20,000 emails or something that we had in there. And we used that for marketing to all the people that had bought from our store. The store had been selling quite a bit of stuff. And up until he decided he wanted to siphon away our traffic, the store was selling lots of stuff, and it was doing pretty well, thanks largely to being on such a powerful domain. So anyhow, what this guy allegedly did, because we don't know for sure that it was him, but I'll tell you there's circumstantial evidence here. So he's in New Zealand. He's the only person in all of New Zealand that was involved in Bitcoin.com in any way that I can think of. I'm pretty darn sure of that. Anyhow, somebody logged into our MailChimp account, downloaded all of the email addresses that were in there, and then to like their own local, computer. And then they deleted all of the email addresses that were in our MailChimp account, so we couldn't email any of our customers. And then a day or two later, an email went out to every single person on that list telling them, okay, store.bitcoin.com has moved. We have a new domain name, which was this guy's new domain name. And so he stole our email list, emailed everybody. And so the way I think is probably fine. And if you want to sue me for libel or slander, feel free to do it, Stephen. Very, very clearly, you stole our email list, you emailed everybody, and then you deleted all of it. So the people at MailChimp told us, oh, we can't tell you which one of the accounts logged in to delete everything, but we know the IP address, and they gave us the IP address, and it was an IP address in New Zealand. So, and there were only 3 people, I think, that had access to that email list, and only one is me, one is another guy who's not in New Zealand, and the other was Stephen there. So anyhow, and he's still emailing people with our list without our permission. So anyhow, shame on you, Stephen. If just be honest and treat people the same way you want to be treated. Nobody wants to have their email list stolen and then deleted. That's not very nice. And if you have a real disagreement of opinion on Bitcoin and the way it should scale, you should support more free and open debate on that sort of thing, not stealing email lists and stealing traffic and causing all sorts of trouble, which is exactly what he did. So anyhow, if anybody out there has experience in e-commerce and it would be interested in running a new store on Bitcoin.com, contact us at jobs@Bitcoin.com. We'd love to find a new partner. Maybe just quit. Maybe you're the right person for that. But we'd love to start selling some swag through Bitcoin.com again. We just have a shortage of manpower because there's so much to do. Even though we have I think 60 or 70 people on the payroll now, we need more. So there's so much going on every week. So anyhow, I love my shirts. Thank you, Just Quit, if you came up with the design. I'm not sure who the original source of the design is, but I love mine too, and I wear it often. So, S. Nakamu says, hi, Roger. First, I want to thank you for all your efforts in protecting Bitcoin throughout the years. As someone who is massively wealthy and very polarizing the crypto community, what do you do to keep yourself safe from potential thieves, violent attackers, spies, extortion / blackmail? So I have some, I guess, a lot of answers to that. So the biggest answer to that, I guess, is I actually don't have access to the vast majority of my crypto coin holdings. If someone were to kidnap me or try a $5 wrench attack on me, I plain and simple wouldn't have access to any of the funds at all. And more likely than not, whoever does have the access to the funds would probably put a bounty on for the arrest or something even worse to happen to the people that had kidnapped me or were doing bad things to me. People have tried to extort me and use blackmail against me multiple times. You can go over to bounty.bitcoin.com and see exactly what I've done in the past. One guy was threatening to swat my family and my office and my parents and that sort of thing unless I paid him. I forget how many Bitcoins it was at the time. It was like $10,000 or something like that. So instead of paying him the $10,000 not to swat me and my family and this and that, I made an equal amount for a bounty for information leading to that person's arrest, prosecution, and conviction for that extortion attempt. And that's likely what I'll do in the future. If anybody tries to extort or blackmail me, I'll just make an equivalent bounty for that person to be brought to justice for what they're doing. So Crypto Lord Crypto says, is it possible to transfer large amounts of Bitcoin Core to Bitcoin Cash anonymously? How do you feel about paying U.S. taxes on cryptocurrency? So I guess first and foremost, I think taxation is the moral equivalent of theft. If a robber comes to you on the street and points a gun at you and says, your money or your life, give him your money. Your money is much more important than your life. When the U.S. government or the Canadian government or any government anywhere in the world tells you, give us your money or we're going to put you in jail. And if you resist going to jail, we're going to hurt you. Give them your money. It's not worth letting them hurt you with that. So that's my advice for you. But it doesn't mean that you should morally condone it. It doesn't mean you should thank them for their service or anything like that. And I guess I'd like to point out that if you agree with taxes and you like taxes and you pay money to the government voluntarily, then by definition, it's not a tax. So if you're giving the money voluntarily, it's not a tax. If you're giving the money involuntarily, then by definition, it's theft because they're taking money from you against your will. So if it's voluntary, it's not a tax. If it's involuntary, it's theft. And there's a fantastic YouTube video. If you're watching this later when we're not on the live stream, pause it for a moment and go on open a new tab for YouTube and search for a video called George Ought to Help. And it's only 4 minutes long. And I think that's the one single best video that I've seen that points out just how incredibly clearly taxation is theft. It doesn't matter if they spend the money on a good cause of building hospitals or roads or bridges. It doesn't matter if they use it on dropping bombs on people around the world. It doesn't matter if a mugger comes to me on the street and points a gun at me and takes my money and then donates all of it to a charity down the street to help, orphans. I'm glad the orphans are being helped, but it doesn't make the fact that he took that money from me against my will, it doesn't make it any less theft just because he used it for a good cause after he got it. And the same is true with governments. So my advice on taxes is pay them or you'll be hurt. So just like any mugger on the street, pay them. Somebody else replied that shapeshift.io is probably your best bet to do it anonymously. You will have to do it in smaller increments, though. Once you have your Bitcoin Cash, you can mix them around and you will become untraceable. And I guess that's another great example of how the full block policy of Bitcoin Core was so incredibly damaging to Bitcoin. So one of the characteristics that make money is fungibility. And that means every piece of money needs to be treated in the same as every other piece of money. And it shouldn't be worth less if it wound up coming from, a dark market website or a gambling site or a porno site or take your pick. It shouldn't matter who it came from. Every piece of money needs to be the same as every other piece of money. And when the blocks became full, which caused the fees to become high and which caused the transactions to become slow, it made it so all these Bitcoin mixing privacy tools that increased the fungibility of Bitcoin became too expensive and slow to operate, and they all had to close down. And so that stripped away Bitcoin's privacy and Bitcoin's fungibility. And if you strip away Bitcoin's fungibility, it makes it less useful as money. And if it's less useful as money, less people are going to use it. And that's why you've seen a big giant rise in a bunch of these privacy coins like Monero and Zcoin and Zcash and Dash and Komodo and Pivx, and there's just a bunch of them out there. But those privacy tools are coming back to Bitcoin Cash in a hurry, because now that the blocks aren't full and the fees are reasonable, you can start having these coin privacy tools again, and we're going to see them on Bitcoin Cash, and we're even looking into seeing what it would take to implement them right directly into the Bitcoin.com wallet. So our million plus users will have fungible money again, because for something to be useful as money, it has to be fungible. And if you can track every transaction on a blockchain, it's not fungible money. And if it's not fungible, it's not money. And if we want to build cryptocurrency, it has to be fungible. So another example of how Bitcoin Core has damaged Bitcoin. And Rolls says, "Hi, Roger, you mentioned something along the lines of being a major part in convincing Japanese politicians to recognize Bitcoin as a form of currency. Have you had any similar discussions about Bitcoin Cash?" So I think the story that that person is referring to was maybe 2013-ish, I would guess. I was at a dinner with a bunch of people from, I think, 2 different Bitcoin exchanges, and there was a Japanese parliament member who was there. And everybody was talking at the table, and I think it was mostly in Japanese. And this politician was talking about why he was so excited about Bitcoin, and his reason for being excited about Bitcoin wasn't because it enables, worldwide peer-to-peer payments that anybody can participate in and not be censored and not be controlled by politicians like him. He was excited about it because Bitcoin was created by Satoshi Nakamoto, and he wanted the entire world to know what a fantastic thing that was invented by a Japanese person. The entire world could be more appreciative of Japan and Japanese culture for inventing this wonderful tool. And I was pretty convinced that Bitcoin was not created by an actual ethnically Japanese person. I mean, whoever was writing the Satoshi stuff, their English was better than mine. And I'm a native English speaker, so this person probably was not likely to be a Japanese person, but I just kept my mouth shut. And I thought, if this politician wants to think that Bitcoin was made by a Japanese person, he wants to spread it to the world because of that, I thought that was just fine. And So that's I guess the story behind that. In general, I'm not really a big fan of politicians in general, so I'm not too eager to meet any of them. Mainly because governments aren't about asking people to do anything; they're about telling people. And if the people don't obey, they're threatened with violence. And if they disobey the threats or ignore the threats, actual violence will be used against them. And I'm of the opinion that all humans should interact with all the other humans on a voluntary and consensual basis. So, Evian didn't force me to buy their water, and if I refused to buy their water, nothing would happen to me. And every single business on the planet, if I refuse to buy their product, nothing bad happens to me at all. I'm free to buy their product from somebody else. It's only with governments and their services provided by services in quotes provided by governments that are a monopoly, and you're not allowed to go somewhere else. And if you try to go somewhere else, more often than not, they'll hurt you. One interesting thing that a lot of people probably don't know already. So I used to be an American. I was born in the U.S. I renounced my U.S. citizenship almost exactly 4 years ago. Most people think that if you want to stop being an American, you just stop. That's it. But no, that's not true at all. Technically, you have to ask the United States government for permission to stop being an American. And that was really shocking to me when I first heard that. I said, what kind of Twilight Zone world are we living in where you have to ask for permission to stop being a U.S. citizen? And the guy at the U.S. Embassy that took my renunciation interview was telling me that. And I asked him, I said, have you seen anybody have their request to stop being a U.S. citizen be denied? And I thought maybe it was only a theoretical thing where on paper, technically, possibly, maybe somewhere, somehow, somebody might have their request to stop being an American be denied. But his reply was, no, it happens all the time. And that was just stunning to me to realize that all the time people who want to stop being an American are told, no, you have to continue being an American against your will. So I'm not really a fan of that sort of thing, or politicians in general. So next question from Max Riley 99. Operation Dragon Slayer currently in progress. Is the cashing real or in real life? I don't know. I think the Dragon Slayer plan is a very plausible plan. The more congested the Bitcoin network becomes, the less usable it becomes. And remember, the miners that are mining on the Bitcoin Core blockchain and the Bitcoin Cash blockchain for that matter, but you're not allowed to claim your mining reward until after 100 blocks have been built on top of it. So if you're worried that the network's going to come to a screeching halt due to lack of hash rate and price crashing and this and that, even if it were more profitable appearingly to mine on Bitcoin Core, it certainly seems much, much safer to mine on Bitcoin Cash. So is it going to happen? Is it real? We're going to find out here in the coming weeks or months. Now that blockchain.info has full support for Bitcoin Cash, BitPay has announced full support for Bitcoin Cash. Coinbase seems to have basically announced full support for Bitcoin Cash. Of course, Bitcoin.com has full support for Bitcoin Cash. It makes it pretty darn easy for all the miners to switch and sell their coins. And at the moment, if you read the white paper, Bitcoin Cash is clearly the one that's most in line with the original version of Bitcoin, with the same economic code that brought Bitcoin from being nothing to this worldwide phenomenon that it is today. You can get them 10 for 1. You can trade one Bitcoin Core coin for 10 Bitcoin Cash coins. That seems like a heck of a deal. And I've already traded the majority of my Bitcoin Core coins for more Bitcoin Cash. And maybe when I'm done doing this AMA, I'll trade some more. So Tralex Z says, Roger, you are a legend who greatly helped Bitcoin achieve incredible success. Bitcoin Cash makes Bitcoin exciting again. So thank you for your hard work and support for Bitcoin Cash. Okay, I guess there's no question there, but I agree. I was feeling a little bit frustrated with Bitcoin Core because these people were intentionally undermining Bitcoin's usefulness in commerce. Bitcoin Cash makes it exciting again because all these opportunities are wide open for Bitcoin again. It's just a shame that it took so long for it to happen, and that Bitcoin completely lost its first mover advantage at this point. So Bitcoin used to have this giant first mover advantage. It's basically been completely destroyed by Blockstream and Core at this point. And so we don't know what cryptocurrency is going to be the winner in the end. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter all that much. Although as someone who had invested a bunch in Bitcoin, I would have liked to have seen it be Bitcoin. But luckily, it's very easy to convert one cryptocurrency to another. And I'll continue to do that as I see the ecosystem develop. At the moment, I'm the most heavy in Bitcoin Cash because I think that's the one with the most upside potential and long-term future potential. So. Um, not Nisa says, Roger, has any thought been put into doubling the block size every 18 months so that it follows Moore's law? So if 8 megabytes are handled fine right now, in 18 months, the block size would be 16 months. And 18 months later, 32, and so on and so forth. Yeah, lots of people have talked about that. There were lots of proposals to do similar things to that on Bitcoin Core previously. Bitcoin Core doesn't have a technical scaling problem. It just has a social problem. There's a bunch of people who openly don't want it to be used as money. I've lost track now of how many times I've been having discussions or debates with Bitcoin Core supporters. And I ask them, how often do you use Bitcoin or to pull out their Bitcoin wallet? And they don't even have a Bitcoin wallet on their phone. They rarely, if ever, use Bitcoin. And there's a quote from one of the most, the biggest loudmouths on that side saying that, and I quote, "I don't consider myself a real Bitcoin user." If you don't consider yourself a real Bitcoin user, why are you so opinionated on the scaling debate if you're not even a Bitcoin user? So if you're not a Bitcoin user, sit back and relax and watch the show. You don't need to have such a loudmouth opinion. So Bitcoin Artist says, what will Bitcoin.com do to improve fungibility / privacy in Bitcoin Cash? Well, at the moment, we're looking into that cash shuffle thing and seeing if there's a way we can integrate it into our wallets for everybody, or maybe the site in general. At the end of the day, the most dangerous form of privacy is the privacy where you think your transactions are private, but they're actually not, because that's when really bad things can happen to you. So we want to make sure that the privacy tools provide really true, strong privacy on Bitcoin. So I'm fully on board with that, fully willing to fund those sorts of development. There's just only so many hours in the day, and this day is getting taken up with several hours of doing and Ask Me Anything. So Ripsaw 1990 says, the following is from Bitcoin Core's website itself regarding possible detriments of Segway in relation to increasing Bitcoin's block size. And he gives the link, and he says, risks due to larger blocks. Larger blocks will result in higher resource requirements for full nodes, potentially causing users to shut down their nodes, which would result in higher centralization. Let's stop right there. It's not the nodes that put your transaction in a block. It's not the nodes that allow you to transact in Bitcoin. It's the miners. It's the miners around the world that include your transactions in a block. It's the Bitcoin miners that allow Bitcoin to even work at all. So it's the Bitcoin miners that we should be worried about being centralized or not. And so we want as many Bitcoin miners all over the world as we possibly can. And when Bitcoin fees are $30 per transaction, it makes it so that if you want to mine Bitcoin, you have to have just a huge amount of hardware in order to have the fees to withdraw your Bitcoin become a negligible amount of your daily earnings. So that's an incredibly huge centralizing factor where you have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars of mining equipment on Bitcoin Core to have it be worthwhile to actually withdraw your Bitcoin Core coins, because the fees are so high. Whereas if the blocks weren't full and the fees were still less than a penny a transaction like they used to be, you could be one guy at home in your mother's basement with one miner, and that's fine. You can still participate. Whereas today, those days are completely gone because of the full blocks and the high fees that they cause. So if anything, the full blocks have caused way more centralization on Bitcoin than the cost of having to have a better computer than a Raspberry Pi to run a full node today. And remember, the miners that are mining Bitcoin, one single S9 is like $1,300. For $1,300, you can buy what used to be a supercomputer just a few years ago. A $1,300 computer can easily handle probably 100 megabyte blocks right now today without any problem. And these miners are buying thousands and thousands of these S9s for $1,300 each. They can afford to buy a computer that can run a full node. They're literally spending millions of dollars on mining equipment, probably hundreds of millions of dollars a month in sales for this mining equipment. I would speculate at least tens of millions of dollars a month. These miners can afford to buy a computer to run a full node. It's not a problem. So, and he goes on to say the negative impact of larger blocks is limited in a number of ways. Pruning support allows users to run full nodes without storing the entire history of the blockchain, which allows users who have constrained storage resources continue running full nodes even with larger block size. Is pruning feasible? And if so, assuming it is also available for Bitcoin Cash, will this greatly diminish centralization of Bitcoin Cash even as blocks get very large as it scales? Also, do you feel that it's hypocritical of Core supporters to so heavily condemn block size increase when Core can be shown here indicating that it can be mitigated? Core is pretty darn hypocritical. Many individual members of Core are pretty darn hypocritical on a whole number of areas. The biggest one is being censorship. We're all excited about Bitcoin because it's a censorship-resistant currency. Why are you engaging in censorship and propaganda and manipulation and character attacks? I didn't get involved in Bitcoin to be popular. I'm here to spread the truth. And yet all I see online are all these people attacking me saying, Roger's stupid, Roger's ugly, Roger's fat, Roger's skinny, Roger doesn't eat meat, Roger eats soy, and I love barbecue for what it's worth. But I hear all these stupid personal attacks about me. It's not about me. It's about the ideas, and it's about how we can implement these ideas into reality to make the world a better place for all of us. That's what it's about. So all these people that are out there, and I see it on both sides, but I see a lot more of it coming from the Core side. Maybe I see more of it because they're directing it at me, but it's not about the individual people. It's about the ideas. So anytime you see someone insulting somebody for, who they are or something like that, ignore it or point out, hey, we should be discussing the ideas, not if someone's, tall or short or fat or skinny or black or white. None of that matters. It's the ideas that matter. So not Satoshi, whose comment has been downvoted. We'll take a look. He says, shall I rename Bitcoin Cash to Bcash on cryptomate.co.uk? If not, please explain why. Many customers are confused by the name. I think many people are really, really confused if they go to bitcoin.org now because they've heard about Bitcoin being this fast, cheap, reliable money, and the Bitcoin Core version isn't. So I don't know. If you want to go troll about Bcash, that's fine. Go ahead. I guess I'll point out one other thing. So maybe I don't know, a week or two ago now, I had a debate with kind of the equivalent of Ali G or Borat of the Bitcoin space. I don't think he was interested in having any sort of real discussion at all. I think he was intentionally trying to push my buttons and be rude. And he did a very, very successful job of that. I lost my temper and said some things that I shouldn't have and gave a hand gesture that I shouldn't have. But I'd like to point out that I was simply annoyed by the guy calling Bitcoin Cash Bcash. That's annoying. That's stupid. But I can handle that. That's not a problem. What really drove me over the edge and pushed my buttons was when he claimed that I had been stated it as a fact, as if it's a publicly known fact. And it's not. It's not a publicly known fact, and it's not true at all. But he claimed that I've been paying social media shills to manipulate the content of different things online. That's an absolute lie. I've never, ever, ever done anything like that, ever. The one guy who started that rumor was a previous moderator on our BTC. He said it and then thought about it for another 10 or 20 minutes and realized, you know what, I don't know that that's true. And he apologized and deleted his post. But a bunch of trolls keep repeating that over and over and over. It's absolutely not true. A couple of people like to post or link to birds.bitcoin.com, which was a fantastic tool we copied that was initially built by Eric Voorhees back in 2012, which allowed anybody, not just me, to post links to any tweets whatsoever, and then people could retweet it to get paid in Bitcoin. And a bunch of the Bitcoin Core trolls went and complained enough to Twitter to get that taken offline at the moment. Once we have another free dev to work on that, we'll bring that back online, and it'll be based on Bitcoin Cash. So anybody will be able to pay anybody else to retweet whatever message, and they'll get paid instantly in Bitcoin Cash, no more Bitcoin Core. So anyhow, anybody could participate. Anybody's tweets were up there. There were lots of pro Core tweets up there that were being paid to be retweeted as well. So that's the closest thing that anybody could ever see, but that was an open platform for anybody. I've never, ever, ever hired any sort of social media manipulation company, whereas there's really strong evidence that somebody out there has for the other side of this debate. So we don't know who or why, but there very, very clearly have been all sorts of non-human trolls posting things that aren't true on the internet to defame Bitcoin Cash and promote Bitcoin Core's roadmap. So, and there's a couple more troll posts there. Another post that's been deleted. I always wonder who these people are that come to Reddit, make a post, and then delete it. Why would you delete it? So so let's see. What would you recommend a non-technically skilled person do to help out the cryptocurrency industry? I would recommend to ask your employer to start paying you in Bitcoin Cash or in cryptocurrency, and then start spending cryptocurrencies. Anytime you need to buy something, spend it in cryptocurrency, and take the dollars that you would have otherwise used to buy that product and use those dollars or euros or wherever you happen to be, and use that to buy more cryptocurrency. So just start moving as much of your life as you possibly can over into cryptocurrencies. You'll be a freer person, probably a wealthier person, and a happier person. And it's just plain fun. So start moving as much of your daily financial transactions into cryptocurrencies as you can. Cordas says, share your thoughts about Coinbase and Bitcoin Cash. Do you think they will enable withdrawal? Then 1 month later, they will enable trading. I don't know the exact time frame, but I would be very, very, very surprised if they don't enable absolutely everything for Bitcoin Cash on their platform. Bitcoin Cash is the second or third biggest crypto coin, depending on which metric you use and which day of the week you check those metrics. I would be shocked if Coinbase doesn't implement everything on their platform. And somebody's at the door, so give me 1 second. So go and grab your own drink of water for a second. I'll be right back, and we'll leave the live stream going. You can probably hear whatever I say. Okay. So let's see. Next question. Sorry, I hope everyone's back from their water break there. So, wow, I just noticed there's over 1,300 people watching live. So thank you guys all so much for watching on your Monday morning here. So people are talking about IOTA and arguing about IOTA. Lots of people email me about all sorts of coins. To be honest, I know very little about IOTA, so I don't have any comment or opinion there. I try not to comment on things when I don't know. And hold on, somebody's back at the door. So, sorry. So I'm streaming live on the internet right now to more than 1,000 people. I cannot help you right now. If I mute, I can tell you a little bit more about what's going on. They're listening to exactly them. I can't talk right now. Okay, sorry. So, next question here. Question regarding fees on Bitcoin Cash. The transaction fee is defined as per byte and in Satoshis. Yes. So now with 125 byte transaction, the minimal fee that is non-zero is 125 Satoshis per transaction. With the price of Bitcoin Cash, say $2,000, it is, and he goes through the math here. I mean, if the price of the coin will go up, won't the fees go up accordingly? Only because 1 Satoshi per byte is the minimal fee that user can enter into the wallet, or can you set the whole transaction fee to 1 Satoshi? Thanks in advance. So on Bitcoin Core previously, or before it split, it was just plain Bitcoin at that point. Most transactions were free for the first, 4 or 5 years of Bitcoin. You don't have to have any fee at all. And I think Satoshi himself actually said that ideally there would always be room for some free transactions on the network. You don't have to pay a minimum of 1 Satoshi per byte. You could set the fee rate potentially at 1 Satoshi per 100 bytes, or even 1 Satoshi per kilobyte. There's no reason that isn't possible. So yeah, the fees can be as low or as high as people want them to be. And HomoPit already replied, giving looks like an answer to that. So. And Ripsaw has a long post here. Let's see. The following is from Bitcoin Core's website itself regarding possible detriments of Segway in relation to lowering fees. And I'm sure this is going to be just giant long things. So maybe I know a lot of people already posted their questions. His question was posted at least an hour ago. Maybe if we can try and keep the questions short, and maybe later I can go back and answer some of the longer ones. But that's a whole wall of text there. So sorry, Ripsaw 1990. Let me see if I can figure out the short version of the question. So this is, what are my predictions? Would I make long-term given Core's concern and this data? And he's talking about a bunch of the miner fees coming from the fees on the Bitcoin network, and not the other one. I think we're already seeing what's happening. Bitcoin's market share, Bitcoin Core's market share, is bleeding into all the other altcoins. It's bleeding into Bitcoin Cash, but it's also bleeding into Ethereum and Dash and Monero and all these other ones out there. So as that happens, the fee pressure on Bitcoin will be less and less because people are using other coins rather than Bitcoin Core at that point. And at some point, it'll become significantly, I think, more profitable to mine Bitcoin Cash than Bitcoin Core. And I think more and more of the miners will switch to Bitcoin Cash. And as more and more of the miners switch to Bitcoin Cash, if there's a fast switch, the hash rate for Bitcoin Core will drop. The block time will become even longer than 10 minutes, which will make the network even more congested, which will make it even less usable, which will make it so that it's even less profitable for miners to use, and more switch. And there may be this cascade and rush for the exit on Bitcoin Core at some point. I think that that's a very plausible scenario. So what are, JB says, what are your thoughts on the updated Bitcoin Cash address options? Personally, I find Bitcoin Cash 32 too long. I believe IPv6 not being easily human readable and typable is part of the reason it is still not widely used, even though it was solidly engineered. I don't have too much of an opinion on the changing the Bitcoin Cash address format. Bitcoin addresses currently aren't that human readable. Although they're a bit more so than IPv6 address. So human readable is good when possible, but with crypto, it's kind of hard. I don't know. I think the Bitcoin.com will likely support both address formats, to be honest, for a while. So we'll see what happens. Eventually, the market will coalesce on one address format. So Ripsaw 1990, again, that name sounds familiar. He says, will Core increase the block limit? If they did, how would it affect Bitcoin Cash? Would Bitcoin Cash respond? Well, apparently you haven't been paying attention to their propaganda. Segway is a block size increase. And we can go and check the exact amount of the block size increase. So Segway is a block size increase. Hasn't everyone been listening to that? So the current most recent blocks, look at that. So if you average it over the last, I don't know, 10 or 15 blocks here that I'm looking at, it looks like it's been a 5% block size increase. So we have a 5% increase in transactional throughput capacity thanks to Segway. The blocks are 5% bigger than they used to be. So anyhow, I think the real underlying problem with Core is that they openly say they don't want Bitcoin to have low fees. They don't want Bitcoin to have safe zero confirmation transactions. They don't want people to use Bitcoin as money. Well, guess what? When you engineer something so that it's not useful as money, people aren't going to use it as money. So, and that's where we're at today. Gautam says, why are you against second layer technologies? If you think I'm against second layer technologies, or if you think Bitcoin Cash people are against second layer technologies, you've been a victim of the censorship over on our Bitcoin. Bitcoin Cash supports second layer technologies better than Bitcoin Core supports second layer technologies. If you have full blocks and you never know when your transactions are going to be included in a block, your second layer stuff is built on a bunch of quicksand and it can come tumbling down, and it's way less reliable because of it. So Bitcoin Cash is way more suitable for second layer technologies than Bitcoin Core. So of course I'm in favor of second layer technologies. I've been in favor of them since day one, but you don't intentionally destroy or disrupt or damage layer one to try to force people onto layer two solutions that don't even exist yet. And that's exactly what Bitcoin Core has done. Bitcoin Core is the only blockchain in the entire world, the only cryptocurrency in the entire world to ever have full blocks. What an incredibly risky, reckless thing to do. If you want to experiment on a coin to find out what happens when you create a fee market and full blocks, you should do it on some coin that's nobody's using. Why would you do it on the biggest, most popular coin that had been working fantastic for the first 7 years without having full blocks and with having low fees and fast, reliable confirmations? If you have a formula that works and works incredibly well, don't change it. And instead, Core took that formula and have been engineering towards the exact opposite. So Taliban Tom. Hi, Tom. So it says, hi, Roger. I'm a student at the University of Toronto, and I'm building an application for users to buy and sell time from each other with 3 other friends. We're nearly complete, but we desperately want to integrate Bitcoin Cash payments into our applications. Since BitPay has announced incoming support in 2018, do you think that there will be many other liquidity providers jumping on board? What about if a user of our application pays another user in US dollar, but the receiving user wanted payment in Bitcoin Cash? Do you know of any provider which offers such a service? Keep fighting the good fight, Roger. Well, Tom, I guess I'd like to point out that anytime you can look anywhere in the world and you think of a problem that people have or something that they want, that's a business opportunity right then and there for you. So if you're thinking that there's other people like you that would want these services, and I think that there probably are, that's a potential business opportunity for you. So maybe you can start a business to provide that exact service. To answer your question a little bit more directly, though, yeah, I think there's going to be all sorts of businesses all over the world that are going to be integrating Bitcoin Cash in a big, big, big way. According to Metcalfe's law, the more nodes or actors there are in a network, the more useful the network becomes, or the more connections there are. And we're seeing that happen with Bitcoin Cash. There's just more and more connections and businesses and things happening, and exchanges and wallets and ask me anythings about it happening all over the world. So of course it's going to get bigger and bigger and more popular. So JPMC Glone, you have totally sold me on the value of Bitcoin Cash. The pros are outstanding. Can you speak to the cons of Bitcoin Cash? What are the biggest flaws and limitations? Thanks, Roger. So I guess the biggest flaw and limitation with Bitcoin Cash at this point is that the Bitcoin core team essentially was able to, through propaganda and social engineering, were able to steal away most of the Bitcoin name and most of the original Bitcoin businesses and have the majority of the Bitcoin ecosystem follow them to begin with. But that's changing quickly because we're now seeing Coinbases and BitPay and Blockchain.info and Bitcoin.com and all these other businesses integrating Bitcoin Cash. So they managed to steal the Bitcoin branding and name in the short run, but in the long run, I don't think that that's going to be the case because, go and read the Bitcoin white paper and then objectively look at the roadmap that Bitcoin Core is on to turn it into this fancy settlement layer that they openly say they don't want people to use it for payments. And you have Bitcoin Cash where we openly say we want everybody to use it for every payment. It's clear which one of those 2 versions of Bitcoin is the Bitcoin described in the original white paper, and it's not Bitcoin Core. So Captain Enterprise says, how do you see XRP, a cryptocurrency or something else? Any concern about its impact on Bitcoin Cash adoption? So a lot of people might not know it. I actually put up the seed money to start Ripple. Back in 2012 or 2013, Jed McCaleb, the founder of Ripple, came to me and said he thought that Bitcoin mining was wasteful, and he thought he had an idea on how to make a version of Bitcoin that didn't require mining and didn't require all that electricity. And at the time, Bitcoin was maybe $2, and we had no idea if it was going to be the winner in the end or anything else. So I said, sure, I'll gladly help fund that. So I paid for the salary of the first employee there for quite a while, and then Ripple was born, and now Ripple's really rocking and rolling. It seems they just appointed Ben Losky into some position or other there, and at the moment, I have absolutely no idea what Ripple is up to. I don't know what's going on over there. I'm a bit skeptical of any company that's appointing regulators to be part of their business. Like it seems like these regulators, so often they create a bunch of barriers to entry and a bunch of regulations and hurdles that are difficult to jump through to get involved in an industry. So they erect all these barriers, and then they go and get a job helping companies comply with all those barriers that they erected themselves. So it's like if I were to break your legs and then offer, hey, I have these crutches for sale. You can pay me and I'll let you rent these crutches for me because I see you have a pair of broken legs. What would you ever do if I wasn't here to rent you these crutches? And that's exactly what so many of these politicians do, is they create a bunch of problems for people regulatory legal problems. And then they offer to do consulting and legal work for them to help them deal with the problems that the politicians created in the first place. And they say, see, if you didn't have me to be part of your company, how would you ever deal with all these regulations? So it's a bunch of nonsense. So in regards to how do I see Ripple, I have no idea what they're up to at this point, but I wish them the best. Anno Drand says, when will the real Roger Ver be back? This is me. I'm advocating the exact same things I've been advocating for day one since I got involved in Bitcoin, and that's for Bitcoin to be usable by everybody everywhere on the planet without having to get permission from a bank or government or middleman at all, and cheap, basically free transactions, which is what the promise of Bitcoin was. So I didn't change at all. Bitcoin Core and Blockstream changed. I guess it's worth pointing out also, so like the IRS came out with their ruling saying that, and this was, I think, 2013 or 14. And I looked it up on a recent tweet. I can give you the exact dates here real quick. Let's see. Like all of you guys, I'm sure you have too many tabs open as well. I have a whole row of tabs here. So anyhow, the IRS came out with this ruling saying that I guess we should take one step back. From the beginning of Bitcoin until 2013, everybody knew without any doubt that Bitcoin was a currency. Bitcoin was supposed to be used in commerce. Bitcoin was supposed to be used for buying coffee and microtransactions and everything else. And every single transaction for more than a penny was supposed to be on-chain, was the idea, or at least supposed to be able to be made on-chain. And then the IRS in 2014 comes along with their ruling, and they say Bitcoin isn't a currency, it's a commodity. And you have to treat it like such, which creates all sorts of tax compliance nightmare issue and really, really stupid. Well, everybody knew Bitcoin was a currency. Bitcoin wasn't a commodity, it was a currency. And then in that same year that the IRS made that ruling, later on that year, Blockstream is formed. And they do everything they can to morph Bitcoin away from being a currency and turning it into a commodity, just like the IRS wanted. And I don't know if there's a cause or correlation or connection there at all, but it's really interesting that Blockstream's trying to make the version of Bitcoin that the IRS says they want Bitcoin to be. And from my point of view, everybody knows that the IRS is wrong when they say that Bitcoin is a commodity. It's a currency, or it could be both technically, but it certainly is a currency. And in my point of view, Bitcoin is a currency, and Bitcoin Cash is the real Bitcoin. So I'm the same Roger Ver I've been since I first got involved in Bitcoin. I haven't changed one bit, and I'm advocating for the exact same things that I have since day one. So somebody else asked me, who mined the first Bitcoin? Mohart replied it was Satoshi. Oh, I'm sorry, skipped one. Bubba Spar says, what % of your Bitcoin did you sell? Why would you continue to hold if you're pessimistic about Bitcoin's future? So the percentage that I sold is my business and nobody else's, but it was a large percentage. And why would I hold Bitcoin Core? I don't put all my eggs in one basket. There's still a whole bunch of people out there that believe in Bitcoin Core. I think they haven't used it, they don't understand the fundamentals. So I think in the long run, the fundamentals are poor. But Bitcoin, I saw TMZ is doing videos about Bitcoin. They're interviewing some guy, Bone Thugs and Harmony rap guy that I remember hearing about when I was a kid. And he's talking about how he has Bitcoins now and this and that. And like, there's a lot of people out there that are buying Bitcoin just because they hear everybody else is. So in the short term, it might go up a whole lot more. And the more people that hold Bitcoin, though, the more incentivized they are to promote it and get their friends to use it. It has this, viral network effect. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Bitcoin Core will continue to go up a whole lot more. But the fact of the matter is it's not useful as a currency anymore. And I think the version of cryptocurrencies that are actually useful and have some use other than the one and only store of value use, I think they'll be a lot more popular in the long run. So the Rotten 7015 says, hello, Roger. What are your opinions on the nature of Bitcoin forking in relation to distribution of wealth? As the scaling debate unfolds, it appears that one Bitcoin Cash will eventually equal one Bitcoin with a far lower price of entry. I'm not sure. I guess he means I'm not sure what he means by that. So the Bitcoin Cash price and the Bitcoin Core price have two different prices. So right now, Bitcoin Cash is less than Bitcoin Core, but Bitcoin, if you own Bitcoin on August 1st of this year, you own the same exact amount of Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Core. So I don't really think I agree or understand the first part of the question. So the next question is, will Free Society be taking Bitcoin Cash in exchange for citizenship? So freesociety.com, there will be no citizenship. It will be a non-country. There will be no centralized government at all. We'll set up the initial constitution and auction off the land, and people will be free to go from there. If you want to use a passport from another country to do something or other, feel free to do it, but we won't be issuing citizenship or passports or anything like that. But if you want to, feel free to do that. So he says, do I believe that Blockstream and aggressors to Bitcoin laid out in Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper will attempt to once again split chains by supporting Bitcoin Cash chain before we hard fork to larger and more dynamic block size? Thanks. I think and hope not, but you never know what's going to happen out there. So, do I believe that bankers took over Bitcoin Core, and how can Bitcoin Cash avoid the same problem? Yeah, I've been wondering about that as well. And that was from You've Been Lied To, which is an accurate name about what's been going on in Bitcoin. So we have been lied to by Bitcoin Core and our Bitcoin and Thamos and Bashko and all these guys engaging in the censorship and propaganda and literally deleting anybody's post that doesn't agree with them. We've been lied to. Bitcoin Core has been co-opted and morphed away from being a worldwide peer-to-peer cash system into some sort of, peer-to-peer science project for a bunch of people that don't understand what money is. How can we avoid the same problem in Bitcoin Cash? I think we have to grow it as fast as we possibly can and scale it as fast as we possibly can so that it's too late for anything to derail it, which was what my goal was initially with Bitcoin. And never, ever in my wildest dreams did I think Bitcoin would be stopped from what appears to be from within. I thought it would come from the outside, but so I guess the short answer is I don't know. Arrow Furious says, hey, Roger, a few questions. Would you comment on why you advertised Mt. Gox as solvent? So let's do one question at a time. So I'd like to make it very, very, very clear. I never, ever, ever said Mt. Gox was solvent. Anybody that says that I said Mt. Gox was solvent is mistaken or intentionally lying about it. So, and I think that there's quite a few people that have been going around intentionally lying, claiming that I said they were solvent, but I never did. People complained that I was reading from a script that day. Yeah, I read from a script. I wrote the words myself. I spent 10 or 15 minutes writing them and then reading them again and making sure it was exactly what I wanted to say. So every single word that I read from that script were my own words that I wrote myself because I wanted to be very, very, very clear about what was going on there. So at the time I made the video, Mt. Gox was having absolutely no Bitcoin withdrawal delays whatsoever. Nobody was concerned over whether or not they had enough Bitcoin or not. A bunch of people were concerned if they had enough dollars or not because all of the bank wire transfers were being delayed or not being sent at all. So Mt. Gox asked me to go over there, and in hindsight, they wound up throwing me under the bus by doing this. But at the time, it seemed like the right thing to do. And they asked me they offered to show me their banking statements, which they did. And they asked me to make a video letting people know that the current withdrawal delays on dollars and wire transfers wasn't being caused by a lack of dollars in the bank. And they let me, I watched right before my own eyes them log into their online banking accounts. I think it was somewhere in the ballpark of 130 million US dollars or something like that was in cash in their bank. And they had a bunch of euros and British pounds and some other currencies as well. And so I saw tons of fiat in their account. And then I also saw that there was a letter from the bank where the bank said that they're only allowed to do 10 international wires per day. And they're only allowed to send, I think it was like the equivalent of $1 million worth of domestic wire transfers per day as well. So it was plain as day obvious that Mt. Gox's wire transfer problems weren't being caused by a lack of liquidity or a lack of money in their bank. It was being caused by the banks not being cooperative for sending their wire transfers. So I made that video for them. I never made any even insinuations in regards to their solvency. I had no idea if they were solvent or if they were not. So the word solvent does not appear in the video. And I'm really, really, really annoyed with the people that keep going around claiming that I said that Mt. Gox was solvent, or even that they were totally fine. All I did in the video, and I invite anybody to watch it again, I said that their current withdrawal delays on fiat withdrawals were not being caused by a lack of liquidity in the bank. It was being caused by the traditional banks. And even to this day, with everything that we know, with the entire bankruptcy and everything else, everything I said in that video was 100% factually correct. Of course, I regret having made the video at this point because it made a whole bunch more people trust Mt. Gox longer than they should have otherwise. But every single thing I said there was true. And I think it's really unfair to claim that I said that Mt. Gox was solvent or anything of that sort, because I certainly didn't. And if for those of you that watched the video and thought that I did say that Mt. Gox was solvent, then I guess I didn't communicate my position clearly enough, or you have a listening comprehension problem, one of those two, or maybe a little bit of both. So anyhow, I'm sorry for having made the Mt. Gox video, but I certainly never said Mt. Gox was solvent. So question number 2, do you think Craig Wright is actually Satoshi? And if so, why do you think he used fake proof? So I'm more than willing to have a debate about all the scaling issues and full blocks and high fees and this and that all over the internet. I'm not interested in having a debate publicly about who Satoshi actually is. Whoever Satoshi is, wherever he is, he invented one of the most important things in the entire history of humankind. And whoever he is, he deserves exactly what he wants out of life. So if he wants to be left alone, he should be allowed to be left alone. If he wants to release fake proof on the internet and get everybody to think he's a scammer, he's free to do that too. He can do whatever the heck he wants in my book, as long as he's not using force or fraud. And I guess you can claim that releasing fake proof might be considered fraud on Craig Wright's side. Like, I don't know, like life is busy. There's a billion people in the world. It's about the ideas, not about the people behind them. So focus on the ideas, not the people. So, and when it comes to the ideas, wow, do I ever like the things that Craig Wright is saying? Satoshi or not, he's the guy that's promoting the version of Bitcoin that I signed up for and got involved with in day one. So I'm really a big fan of the things that he does say. The next question from Aero Furious, and maybe we should limit it to one question in the future, but he says, why are you still holding Bitcoins when, in fact, you say that Bitcoin Cash is the real Bitcoin? So I already answered that question. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Why is Bitcoin Cash nowhere advertised on Bitcoin.com's homepage? Are you not proud of the name you chose? Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin. So the actual name of our domain name is in regards to Bitcoin Cash. There's a big giant button to get our wallet right front and center of the front page. And the top coin in the wallet is a Bitcoin Cash wallet. So we're very, very, very proud of Bitcoin. And Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin. So question 5, do you think that being a millionaire makes a technical argument stronger and being wealthy but not rich makes a technical argument weaker? And being not rich makes no. I don't think that being a millionaire makes your technical argument stronger, and being not rich makes your technical argument weaker. No, I don't think that's the case. But I do think that being wealthy does show that that person has some experience and know-how and knowledge when it comes to running a business. And if somebody's running a business that's not making any money, then that person probably doesn't know as much about how to run a business, or their business would already have been more successful. If that's in reference to the troll recently, we were at the very beginning of this live stream, I was talking about people taking things out of context. So I told the guy, like, I was a multimillionaire before Bitcoin had ever even been invented. I didn't get involved in this because I needed the money. I got involved in this because I wanted to change the world for the better. And I said that not because I wanted him to see that that my technical argument is stronger because I'm wealthy. I was saying that because I was pointing out to him, like, hey, I don't need to sit here and be insulted over and over and over by you again. Like, I don't need that in my life. Life is short. I want to enjoy my life, not be insulted by some troll on the internet who has no clue how to run a business. And we'll click on Sushi, who has a bunch of downvotes already. So, and I can see why he got all the downvotes. He definitely deserves it. Butch Betesh says, what projects do you like best in crypto right now besides Bitcoin Cash? I'm a big fan of all the token stuff happening on Ethereum. That's really, really exciting stuff. I'm a big fan of all the privacy coins as well. There's just more stuff than any one human being could keep up with. So there's this entire new ecosystem that's developing, and the entire thing as a whole is really, really exciting. So Black Sheep 520, just speculations. I heard some rumors that Wall Street will tank the price and pick up some cheap coins from that. If that's the case, that would require a significant amount of Bitcoins for the big movement. So how do they tank the price if they don't have the required amount of Bitcoins in the first place? If they do, it means they are already in Bitcoin before this even becomes a rumor news, right? Or do they have alternative methods to achieve this? So Wall Street tanking Bitcoin price. Is it likely or not to be true? I have no idea. That sounds like a nice thing to make another YouTube conspiracy video about. No idea on that one, sorry. Space Pip says, hi Roger, what do you think the authorities, G20 tax agencies, governments, central banks will do in 2018? I expect more regulation in terms of stricter taxation, what do you think 2018 will look like? I completely agree. Now that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are this big of a deal, governments are going to really do everything they can to make sure that they can tax them effectively. And from my point of view, that's a bad thing. I think people spending their own money leads to more economic growth than politicians spending their money for them. And if more economic growth leads to a higher standard of living for everybody on the planet. So if you want everyone to be better off, we need less government spending, not more. So the one good thing about it, though, too, is that cryptocurrencies eventually are going to take away government's ability to inflate the currency, because a lot of different government budgets come from inflation. So. So T Park 488 says, "Hey Roger, serious question. I know you've spent time in prison. Why did you go there? What explanation do you have for us to continue to trust you?" So I guess I'd like to point out that I was at FCI Lompoc, federal prison in the United States, in 2002. Got out in 2003. Probably somewhere in the ballpark of between 70 and 80% of the people that were there in that prison were there for victimless crimes. The vast majority of them were there for buying, selling, or using or possessing some sort of a substance that makes people feel happy, aka illegal drugs. My bunkmate, for example, was there for selling marijuana. Tons of people were there for marijuana and other drugs as well. So I think, why should you trust me? You should, if someone's a convicted felon, you should look what the crime is. Was there a victim? Did they hurt anybody? Did they do anything wrong? If the answer to those things is no, then yeah, you should still trust them. In fact, a lot of these people that traditionally have gone to jail, I would say, are even heroes. So if you look at societies around the world, it's the law breakers that move society forward. It's the lawbreakers that help make the world a better place. It's the lawbreakers that helped slaves escape from the South and into the North. It's the lawbreakers that stop sitting at the back of the bus and start sitting at the front that help move society forward. It's the lawbreakers that help Jews escape from concentration camps. It's the lawbreakers that help make the world a better place. So without people breaking the law in different places, the world wouldn't move forward in a positive direction. So certainly not all lawbreakers, but a bunch of lawbreakers help make the world a better place. So in my own case, so I sold firecrackers on eBay back when eBay had a guns and ammo section, and you could sell shotguns and assault rifles and ammunition and everything else, and it wasn't a big deal to be selling these. In fact, dozens of other people were selling them on eBay as well. The exact same product, Cabela's Sporting Goods catalog, one of the biggest sporting goods resellers in the United States, was selling the exact same product. None of these businesses had a permit. They were shipping them in the normal mail. It wasn't a big deal. This is before 9/11. Today, everybody thinks it's a big, giant, wild thing. So these were firecrackers that if you held one in your hand, I'm sure, and lit it, I'm sure it wouldn't feel nice, but your hand would probably still be there. They were people love to troll me on the internet saying he stored them in an apartment building and put other people at risk. I literally stored them right next to my own bed that I slept at night. So I don't think they were very dangerous. I wouldn't have stored them right next to my own bed that I slept at night. And they also talk about I sold 50 pounds worth. It was 50 pounds worth spread out over maybe 2 or 3 years of selling them. And the 50 pounds includes all of the boxes and the packaging and the cardboard and everything else. And I remember when I was, negotiating the plea deal, I was calculating out what the actual weight of the explosive material in all of them, and it was like, of the 50 pounds, it was like 49 of it was packaging and only like 1 pound total that was sold over the course of like a 2-year period. There was like a pound of actual like flash powder or whatever it was that was inside of them. So anyhow, you can Google it, Roger Ver Federal Prison Explosives or something like that. And I think there's plenty of stuff online about that. So and some other people were replying to that guy, answering the question for me. And then God Emperor of Dune says, when can we buy Bitcoin Cash with US dollars on bitcoin.com? Besting Coinbase to the punch would be great for your business. Yeah, I would love to best Coinbase to the punch on that, but Coinbase got like a 4-year head start on me in building their business. So Coinbase will definitely be first when it comes to direct banking integration, although we're working on deeper integration with traditional payment rails with the bitcoin.com wallet, so you'll be able to instantly buy and sell Bitcoin Cash with your traditional payment systems right from your bitcoin.com wallet. But Coinbase is going to have us beat on that front for a long time. Maybe in a couple of years I'll catch up, but not yet. So So Amy ZLV says, hi, Roger, I'm a big fan. I now have 100% of my coins in Bitcoin Cash, but I'm thinking of spreading my eggs into more baskets. What do you think about privacy coins like Monero, Zcash, Verge, SafeX, Digibyte, etc.? Thank you. So that's, again, one of the, in addition to the high fees and unreliable confirmations on Bitcoin Core, that's the other part of Bitcoin that Bitcoin Core and Blockstream really, really damaged was the privacy level of Bitcoin. They made it too expensive and slow for people to use the privacy tools on Bitcoin. So I'm a big, big fan of privacy coins, like all the ones that you just named that I'm familiar with. I'm not familiar with all of them, to be honest. But of course, Monero and Zcash are two that I'm very familiar with that you named there. But I'm also very excited and looking forward to Bitcoin privacy tools coming back to Bitcoin Cash. And those will be coming very, very quickly, I think. So King of the Flock says, what's holding Bitcoin Cash back from taking the #1 spot? When do you predict it will reach the #1 spot? What does the roadmap for Bitcoin Cash look like? So we'll answer the last question first. What does the roadmap look like? Bitcoin Bitcoin Cash's roadmap is the Bitcoin roadmap. Go back and read the original Bitcoin white paper, read the original post from Satoshi, read the original Bitcoin roadmap from when it was started to maybe 2013. Bitcoin Cash's roadmap is the original Bitcoin roadmap that worked to grow Bitcoin from nothing to the worldwide phenomenon that it is today. When do I think it'll reach the #1 spot? I don't know for sure that it will. Bitcoin's first mover advantage has been destroyed by Blockstream Core. It only has 50% market share at this point. And Ethereum is a huge amount of people working on it. Ethereum's fantastic, right? If things are useful, people are going to use them. And Bitcoin Cash is useful, but it's only been around for a couple of months. And Bitcoin Core is becoming less and less useful by the day. So people are going to start switching to other things. So I hope and think it'll take the #1 spot, but we don't know. And what's holding it back? Just the network effect. More and more people have to use it. We have to have more and more infrastructure. It just takes time. So Overwash says, thank you for being an advocate of Bitcoin Cash. When will Bitcoin.com lifetime cloud mining contract come back? And as a Bitcoin Cash supporter, can I get a PM invite? I don't know if we're ever going to offer lifetime cloud mining contracts again. We've been discussing that internally. There's a lot of risk for us if we promise people lifetime contracts. That risk is kind of hard to mitigate. Whereas a 1-year contract, the risk is much more mitigatable, so we can make sure that everybody gets 100% of what they were promised. So it's possible that the lifetime contracts may never be back, to be honest. And we're not 100% sure on that. We're still thinking about that and discussing it internally. But for now, I think we still have a little bit of 1-year contracts available. But the sales rate has just been overwhelming, and our biggest problem is keeping up with the demand. So Furlished says, with Bitcoin Core not being what you, plural, wanted it to be, you decided to fork it and do it your way, still plural, of course, and name it Bitcoin Cash. With the problem for multiple currencies to be called Bitcoin, something comes a lot of confusion for users. If you want it to be accepted globally, would it be Core or Cash? Why didn't you decide to launch a new crypto with a new name, with the vision you wanted? Wouldn't it be easier in terms of branding and public vision? After all, Bitcoin is an open source project which evolved to become what it is now. Good, bad, or depends on who you ask. Not something written into stone from day one. So I'm advocating for the exact same version of Bitcoin that I have been for the last 7 years. And Bitcoin Core is that same version of Bitcoin. So if anybody stole the name and the branding and caused confusion in the ecosystem, it was Bitcoin Core and Blockstream by stealing the Bitcoin name and morphing it into something that wasn't described in the Bitcoin white paper and wasn't described on Bitcoin.org and wasn't what Bitcoin was ever intended to be from day one. So, the Inescapable says, how do you justify allowing resources you control to mine Bitcoin Core, thereby, or BTC, thereby enabling the fraud it represents and aiding enemies of freedom? So the hash rate contracts we sold on Bitcoin.com, the hash rate doesn't belong to us. So we try to give people the freedom to point their hash rate where they want. So we'll see what happens in the future there too. So Mukin48 says, some in the community have claimed Bitcoin Cash will be in a position to compete with Ethereum's ERC20. Allow anyone to easily create tokens in 2018. In fact, easier, faster, and cheaper. Any thoughts into this? I hope that's the case. The more competition we have in the token market, the better. The more great tools people have, to do those sorts of things, the better. And if one winds up being hacked or having a flaw, then we still have the other one. So decentralization in terms of platforms is a good thing too. So Olam Enterprises. So hi, Roger. Thank you for doing this. Much appreciated. Got a couple of questions. Feel free to answer none, some, or all of them. So we'll start one at a time here. What are your thoughts on the new address format? So I think I already answered that earlier. Do you have an update on when we can expect to be able to purchase Bitcoin Cash through Bitcoin.com with Fiat? I think by 2018. We'll be starting on that early next year. And actually, we'll have credit cards available for it really, really quickly. We'll be able to buy Bitcoin Cash with a credit card very, very quickly on Bitcoin.com. Says, do you have information about what the fees will be on Bitcoin Cash debit card? And two, whether it will instantly convert the balance to fiat upon funding? Blah, 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 blah. So more about the debit card, I guess stay tuned. We'll release all the details as soon as we have them locked down. But that should be in the first quarter of next year for sure as well. With the re-enabling of opcodes in Bitcoin Cash, do you have any example of what possibilities will be opened up? Personally, I would like to see Bitcoin Cash focus on being the best form of money. And so if it enables any advanced monetary features, then I'm all for it. Yeah, I agree. I got involved in Bitcoin because of my background in studying economics, and I want to see Bitcoin become the very best form of money we possibly can. So I'm more interested in that aspect. So 5, are you currently planning on implementing Cash Shuffle into the Bitcoin Cash wallet? We're definitely looking into it at the moment. We have to make sure that it's possible and that it's useful and that it works. We also want to implement being able to send Bitcoin Cash via email to your friends or via text message to your friends so you can help spread Bitcoin Cash that way as well. What are your thoughts on how we can make ZeroConf better and more usable for merchants and consumers alike? Linking to this, do you have an opinion on the purpose idea of subchains? So yeah, we want to make zero confirmation transactions as safe as we possibly can. The policy on Bitcoin originally was called first seen, first safe, which meant as soon as you broadcasted a transaction to the Bitcoin network, that was it. That was the one the miners were going to include in the next transaction. It wasn't until later that Bitcoin Core said, no, we should be able to reverse that at any time or at any reason. So we've been reading through a lot of things. I'm going to take a break for a moment to look at our the free Bitcoin that I gave away earlier at this, I think it was this address with this private key and all that. So there was $150, $157 on that address in Bitcoin Core, and someone spent $150 in fees to get it. And so they only received $5 of the $155. And that was, I don't know, maybe 2 hours ago we've been doing the live stream now, or an hour and a half ago. Still has not confirmed. Whereas the Bitcoin Cash that was on that same address, it now has 10 confirmations. So Bitcoin Cash, the person paid, they overpaid for the fee, to be honest. They paid $3 to move the Bitcoin Cash, and it has 10 confirmations. On Bitcoin Core, they paid $150 to claim the $150, so $55. So they only received $5 out of the $155. And it still isn't confirmed on the network. I think it's going to be a long, long time before it does get confirmed, to be honest. So we'll do another couple of questions here. So where can I buy some BCH Please stickers? And when will people be able to buy Bitcoin Cash directly from Bitcoin.com? So do a Google search for the stickers. Maybe Jess Quit wants to run our store. Contact me. We'll sell BCH Please stickers. We ordered a whole bunch of them, actually. And if you contact, shoot, I forget the email address. Maybe it's stickers@bitcoin.com or something like that. If you Google it, we have a contact place, and we'll send motivated people some stickers for free as well. Soft Larch, on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 not at all, 10 wholeheartedly, where would you position yourself on each of the following groups? Entrepreneur, pioneer, spokesman, technician, investor, trader. So entrepreneur, I'd like to think that I'm on the 9 or 10 side of that. I enjoy being an entrepreneur. Being a pioneer, I guess I don't think of myself as a pioneer. I just say what I actually think, and I don't care if it's the popular opinion or not. I'm much more interested in the truth rather than being popular. So I guess that kind of has the effect of making me a pioneer or making me do things differently than other people. But my goal isn't to be a pioneer. I guess it just has that effect. Spokesman, a lot of people might find this surprising, but to be honest, like, I don't like big crowds. I don't like talking to a bunch of people that I don't know. I guess I'm good at it. I'm a pretty decent public speaker. again, for those of you that missed the beginning of this live stream, it's actually dedicated to Andreas, I think probably the best public speaker in the entire ecosystem. So thank you, Andreas, for being such an amazing spokesman and spreading Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies to so many people. Although I would like to see you point out all the crazy censorship that's been going on our Bitcoin and bitcointalk.org and even bitcoin.org. But technician, so I guess technician can mean a lot of different things. If you mean like code or tinkering with the code, I'm, a 1 on that. But if it comes to a technician, as far as like setting up economic incentives and businesses and structures to bring adoption and bring more usage and get people on board, then I'm probably a 9 or 10 on that side of things. When it comes to investor, I'm probably just a 3, to be honest. I guess it was the entrepreneurial pioneering side, in the sense that I don't care what other people think and I do my own thing if it makes sense. That may be an investor in the Bitcoin space, but I guess I'll tell a quick story. So I had, a lot of people don't know this, but blockchain.info and Coinbase used to be the same company. There were 2 co-founders there. There was Brian Armstrong and a guy named Ben Reeves, and they had some sort of difference of opinion or difference of vision. And it seems like there were some negative things that happened there that I don't know the exact details firsthand, so I don't want to go into details of things that I'm not sure about. But anyhow, blockchain.info and Coinbase, I'm sure, did used to be one entity. They went their own separate ways, and I had the opportunity to invest in both of them. I remember being at I had already invested in blockchain.info, and I did that because it allowed people to hold their own coins and be in charge of their own money, whereas Coinbase was being set up as a Bitcoin bank where they're holding people's Bitcoins on their behalf. And I remember being at a barbecue in the Silicon Valley with Brian Armstrong, probably in 2012-ish, or I don't think it was 2011, it was probably 2012. And he was saying, hey, you should invest in Coinbase as well. And I was like, no, I want people to hold their own keys themselves. So if I had been a better investor, I would have just invested in both Coinbase and blockchain. Instead, I only invested in blockchain, which has done fantastic as well, and is actually responsible for more Bitcoin and more Ethereum transactions than any other wallet anywhere in the world. And probably on short order, they'll be responsible for more Bitcoin Cash transactions than any other wallet in the world as well. But if I had been a better investor, I would have invested in both rather than in one. When it comes to being a trader, I'm probably like a -9. I'm a horrible trader. I have bad timing. That's why I don't trade. I just hold and hold for the long term. I sold a bunch of my Bitcoin Core coins for Bitcoin Cash. If I had been a better trader, I would have wound up with a whole bunch more Bitcoin Cash than I actually have. I still have plenty. But right now it's 10 to 1, but at one point it got up to where you were only getting 2 to 1 for your Bitcoin Core for Bitcoin Cash. And I averaged my cost over all of that. But if I was a better trader, I would have had even more. So I hope that answers your questions. Money78 says, Roger, 3 years from now, how do you see Bitcoin Cash in terms of market cap, team, and development? Do you think people will talk about Bitcoin Cash in the near future as a great cryptocurrency the same way they talk about Bitcoin now? Thanks, Vance. Yeah, I think the people that are in the know and studying the ecosystem already realize that Bitcoin Cash is the real Bitcoin, and Bitcoin Cash is the one with the real potential long-term and the real upside. And all sorts of CEOs in the space, prominent names that you guys would know, have contacted me privately and said, hey, Roger, thank you for keeping up the good fight. Thank you for continuing to speak out in favor of a block size increase. Like, I have no desire, and they tell me that they have no desire to engage in any of that publicly. They don't want to be, deal with any of the personal attacks or the craziness that goes on. But they tell me privately, like, hey, thank you for continuing to speak the truth, despite all the personal attacks and propaganda and trolling that happens on the internet. So I think we're going to see Bitcoin Cash surpass Bitcoin Core here in short order, to be honest. BTC News Update says, I have nothing to ask, but I want to say 2 things. So you are doing a great job, one of the best. We are lucky to have you in the community, whatever the fake grassroots sock puppet accounts say about you online. And he says, I wish you would block all the Blockstream sock puppet accounts on your Twitter account. They embarrass themselves, but they also make it impossible for people like me to benefit from the interesting discussions that would normally follow from your tweets. I feel like I'm missing out on something that would be of great value. Otherwise, best of luck. I think we owe you a lot. Never forget that we will be here for you should you need us. I speak for myself, but I think many others share my opinion. So thank you, BTC News Updates. I've actually been thinking a bit about whether or not I should start blocking these accounts on Twitter that look like they're probably not even real people. And yesterday, I blocked maybe 4 Twitter accounts that I was pretty darn sure weren't even real people. maybe I'll do some more of that. Like I'm really, really hesitant. In fact, I don't think I will ever block anybody that seems to be a real person that is actually engaging in the discussion. You can say I'm wrong all day long, and you can say the reasons why you think I'm wrong all day long. If you say things like, I'm wrong because I'm fat, or I'm wrong because I'm ugly, or I'm wrong because I went to prison, those aren't really arguments. So if you're just filled with non-arguments or just posting stupid, Twitter has all those GIFs now where people are, shaking their head no. If you post that sort of stuff, maybe I'll start blocking some of those that actual discussions can take place. Hardcore Trevor says, Konbanwa, Roger-san, which means good evening in Japanese. Thank you for your efforts and advocacy regarding the real true Bitcoin. Will the Bitcoin Cash have the possibility of creating a fork in the future? People can fork open source projects anytime they want for any reason. There's another post here from CJ Harmon, whose post was removed by the auto moderator because it thought it was spam. I'm going to click approve to enable that post, because on our BTC, we actually allow people to say things. And sorry, the auto moderator thought your post was a spam, but he says, hey, Roger, we need a good on-point message to tell noobs what the value of Bitcoin is. Typical people have a hard time understanding the value in computing power, decentralization, and trust. You're really good about these talking points. What's your noob explanation for non-technical people? For non-technical people, you have to understand the usefulness of Bitcoin. The usefulness is that you can, right on your phone, you can send and receive any amount of money with anyone, anywhere in the world instantly, basically for free, and there's nothing that anybody can do to stop that. That never existed before Bitcoin, and that's incredibly, incredibly useful to everybody all over the world in every country. Warboat says, if the current core team were to be dismissed and the repo run by a reasonable consensus group with a plan to scale on-chain, would you support a plan to merge Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Cash into one to solidify the Bitcoin miners in the Bitcoin world? That's a great question, Warboat, and I don't know. I'd have to think about that a bit more. My initial reaction is that it's kind of too late. The two coins have gone their separate ways. And I kind of think that everybody gets the version of Bitcoin that they want and they think is the most useful. And at the end of the day, people are going to decide, is the Bitcoin Core that's slow, expensive to use, and unreliable, or is it going to be Bitcoin Cash that's cheap, fast, and easy to use, and reliable? And there's no doubt in my mind. So I think it's kind of too late. If Core had even compromised and gone from 1 megabyte to 2 megabyte, I don't think the split would have happened at all, but they were unwilling to compromise at all, even 1 inch on anything at all. And I hear a lot of people say you can't just keep raising the block size forever, but that's nonsense. Of course you can. Have you not heard of Moore's Law? Do you think hard drives aren't going to continue to get bigger forever? Do you think storage isn't going to get cheaper and faster and better forever and ever? Of course they are. It's been going on since the beginning of the invention of computers. It's going to go on for hundreds and hundreds of years more. So. Parker in Hong Kong says, we briefly met at DEF CON 3, and I was pleasantly surprised moving from an internet to in-person impression. You often tweet about Bitcoin Cash as an increasing use in day-to-day transactions. With the Bitcoin Cash team, is there dedicated manpower defining payment processors, partners to integrate, except Bitcoin Cash? I'm trying to think outside of the traditional company model. I think the Bitcoin payment processors are already aware of Bitcoin Cash, and they're implementing it. We've already seen that with Coinbase and BitPay and a bunch of others already at this point. So I think that anybody that studies the space can figure out that Bitcoin Cash is the real version of Bitcoin and is the useful version of Bitcoin. VK Allen says, hi, Roger, could you please give me your opinion between trading in an exchange versus trading privately? I'm a strong supporter for trading privately, but your insight would be helpful. Yeah, I think I probably agree. Like if you have someone to trade with privately, that's probably a bit better than using an exchange, but watch out for scammers or con artists on the internet. I don't have any more water, so I might take a break here pretty quick and get some more water. But Derek60 says, thanks for keeping it real, man, but also for your time and hard work. Not many people would act like you in your position and keep up with people's BS. Most would probably just give up, but not you. Okay, no question there, but thank you for the kind words, Derek60. Johnny Born something, do you think Satoshi is still alive? I don't think it matters. I think it's the ideas that count at the end of the day, not the people behind them. I hope he's alive, and I hope he's enjoying every single minute, though. Ringo Manzana says, What advice would you give to someone with a business background that is interested in a career in blockchain/cryptocurrency? Also, what is the best way to introduce our friends and relatives to the new digital world during the holidays? So how do you introduce your friends and relatives? Give them a little bit of Bitcoin for Christmas. Maybe go and print up a Bitcoin paper wallet from tools.bitcoin.com and put some Bitcoin Cash on it. And then when you meet them in person at Christmas, install the bitcoin.com wallet on their phone and have them scan it in onto their phone, or they can just put the paper wallet somewhere safe. But the best way is to give some people some Bitcoin for Christmas. In 2012, I gave everybody in my family some Bitcoin for Christmas, and my mother was angry. She was really angry. She said, "Roger, you are supposed to give us something we want for Christmas, not something you like for Christmas." And today she's okay with that, though. She did just fine on her Christmas Bitcoin gifts. So even if people are angry, they'll probably thank you for it later. Dad Bob says, do you think Bitcoin Core can survive long term and the two Bitcoins, Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Core, can coexist? Maybe. We're going to find out. So we have a little bit of examples of that with like Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. They both use the same, mining hardware. The difference is that the difficulty for both of those adjust after, every block on a much shorter time span. So, but both of those have existed for what, maybe 2 years now without any real problems. The biggest difference is that Bitcoin Core's difficulty only adjusts every 2016 blocks. And I think that's where the real danger comes from. But they've coexisted so far already for, 5 months now or something without really problems. So maybe that will continue, not sure. So Gecko29 says, keep up the great work. What is the weather like in St. Kitts, and do you recommend visiting? Yeah, I recommend visiting. St. Kitts is fantastic. Here, I'll give you guys a little taste. So here's wonderful St. Kitts. So yeah, come on down for a visit. I'll try and make time for people to meet up for lunch or something like that. We were actually discussing maybe having a Bitcoin conference here at some point in the future. So yeah, St. Kitts is great. And no personal income tax, no personal capital gains tax. There's basically the only thing there is a sales tax. You don't even have to file a tax return at the end of the year, so it's pretty darn nice on that front as well. Ripsaw 1990, could you and Jihan's mining interests be the very significant reason you are favoring on-chain scaling rather than off-chain solutions that so long-term the fee market will benefit? So long-term the fee market will benefit from you rather than Lightning Network fees favoring Blockstream investors. No, I don't. I guess the reason I favor on-chain scaling is I don't think it's fair to say that I'm opposed to off-chain scaling. I want to see both, but you don't strangle the on-chain scaling, which has worked to grow Bitcoin from nothing to where it is today, to try and force people onto the off-chain stuff, and that's exactly what Blockstream and Core has been doing. At the end of the day, and at the beginning of the day, Bitcoin consensus was all about proof of work, and the miners are what provide that. So I think if anything, if you read what Blockstream's up to, they're trying to change Bitcoin into something that it was never meant to be, and they're the ones that should stop trying to do that. So Rise of the Trump Waffen says, can I have like 100 Bitcoins? I think you should buy $100 worth of Bitcoins today, and in the future, that $100 worth of Bitcoin today might be worth what 100 Bitcoins are worth today. So, or Bitcoin Cash for that matter. So just buy and hold. Let's see. What do you say to those claiming they have lost funds by the name confusion with Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash? I think the vast, I think all of the ones that have lost funds by the confusion weren't using the Bitcoin.com wallet. It's pretty much impossible to lose funds with the Bitcoin.com wallet. They use the same seed. So if you receive Bitcoin Cash to your Bitcoin Core address, it just shows up in the Bitcoin Cash wallet. So if you've lost funds due to the confusion, I recommend start using the Bitcoin.com wallet, and you won't lose any more funds. Just Another Bomb Track says, where do you see Bitcoin Cash fitting into the picture with respect to Litecoin? It seems that Litecoin has real-world use cases, but the focus from Bitcoin Cash is always in regards to Bitcoin itself. And how will atomic swaps between Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Core play into this long-term? I guess I'm really, really frustrated with Charlie, the creator of Litecoin, in which he says that if Litecoin were to ever have full blocks, he would just increase the block size of Litecoin. But he says that Bitcoin shouldn't do the exact same thing when the Bitcoin blocks became full. So that sounds an awful lot like a case of a do as I say, not as I do type of thing. And it's true, like Litecoin's been around for a while. It has a bit of a network effect. It has a decent market cap. If people want to use Litecoin, feel free. I'm not going to stop you, but I have no interest in it whatsoever because Bitcoin Cash can do everything that Bitcoin, that Litecoin can. And Bitcoin Cash has a bigger ecosystem, has a bigger user base, has more users. Remember, every single person in the entire world who was a Bitcoin holder on August 1st became a Bitcoin Cash holder. And I'm sure that number is much bigger than the total number of Litecoin holders around the world. So I'm not interested in Litecoin at all. I won't be integrating it into any of my my own platforms. But if other people want to use it, more power to you. Feel free. Go ahead and do it. I'm not going to stop you, and I'm not going to complain about it one bit. So go right ahead. We Bitcoins asks if Craig Wright was a friend of Satoshi. That's a question for Craig Wright and Satoshi. I'm not interested in commenting on that or having that debate. So to Sir says, Roger, thanks for all the work you've done for the crypto space. It's people like you that are really giving life to the new technology. My question is about the fungibility of Bitcoin Cash. It seems one of the biggest flaws with Bitcoin Cash as a cash system. The technology is designed to be used around tracking property, and while it doesn't have to be tied to a specific person's identity, the majority of places to buy Bitcoin Cash and other cryptos require bank account numbers, phone verification, and picture IDs. So what are the best solutions in the near future for improving Bitcoin Cash's anonymity? Is it possible to have true anonymity on this particular chain? How important do you consider fungibility in the grand scheme of Bitcoin Cash? Fungibility is super, super important. It's one of the key characteristics of money. So Bitcoin Cash needs to have as much fungibility as we possibly can. Give it. People are working on one particular thing called Cash Shuffle. I haven't had time to dive into it deep, but I'm sure there'll be all sorts of privacy tools coming back for Bitcoin Cash soon. It's very, very important, and I talked about it a bit previously. That's one of the things that was also damaged on Bitcoin Core by the full blocks and high fees, is they've undermined Bitcoin's fungibility. Extravagant comment says, why do you think there is so much divisiveness between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash supporters, and do you think there is a chance that both can coexist? Well, both are coexisting right now. Why is there so much divisiveness? I think the divisiveness started when the censorship started. Before the censorship started, there was some heated debate, but it was free and open debate, and people could say what they really thought. And then once the censorship started, a whole bunch of the ecosystem, and probably the majority of the ecosystem at that point, felt disenfranchised and cut off. And so if you go to a Dash or an Ethereum or any of these other altcoin conferences today, almost everybody you find there were previous Bitcoiners, and they were previous Bitcoin big blockers that left Bitcoin because of the censorship and the small block policy and the lack of support for free and open speech. So, but they're already coexisting. But I think there's also a bit of animosity there too, because the Bitcoin Core people have clearly stolen the Bitcoin name and branding. Bitcoin was meant to be used as cash, so Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin in my book. So, Austin says, is there a long-term plan to keep this forum relatively free of memes and price threads? As Bitcoin Cash grows, we are beginning to draw more and more new people, many new to cryptocurrency as a whole, and less discussion as a result of these new people. I think it's important that our BCH and our Bitcoin Cash always remain a place of open technical discussion, political discussion, and major achievement of the coin overall. Those types of topics are incredibly educational to those that want to learn about the currency as a whole. Contrarily, a forum with a meme to serious ratio of 10 to 1 is difficult to respect. He doesn't mind occasional memes. They can be great. Yeah, I like the more technical discussions, and occasionally a meme is pretty fun, but I'm more interested in the serious discussions, but we also want to allow people to discuss what they want to discuss. So we're not going to delete memes either. So I don't know. We'll see. In my opinion, what is the most technologically advanced cryptocurrency we have in the market? I don't know. I'm not the right person to judge that. I'm more interested in what the most useful cryptocurrency we have in the market today is, and it's probably somewhere between a combination of Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, and to some extent Bitcoin Core, because it still has that big giant ecosystem that's still attached to it, even though it costs $50 per transaction, and your transactions take hours to confirm. So remember, towards the beginning of this live stream, I displayed that private key where someone tried to claim the $155 worth of Bitcoin. They paid $150 in fees, so they're going to receive $5. That transaction is still unconfirmed. So interesting. So let's see, next question here. When is Bitcoin.com going to turn green and start promoting Bitcoin Cash exclusively? I don't think it's ever going to turn green. We're going to promote Bitcoin Cash as much as we possibly can. We're already doing that. It takes quite a while to move everything over. There's just so much content and so much of all of that. So Crypto Lord Crypto says, can a U.S. citizen renounce citizenship while holding to avoid capital gains tax if he sells? Probably not, but consult a tax professional. I have no idea. So go and ask a professional. Maybe we can get an AMA with a Bitcoin tax professional on here going at some point in the future. So Taurus JKL says, for purchase contracts on pool.bitcoin.com, it is only possible to choose the payout reward PPS. Are there plans to allow for other types like PPLNS? I'm pretty sure you can choose both payout types already. If not, maybe you're just looking in the wrong area. If you still can't find it, open a support ticket, because I'm pretty sure you can ask for both payout types. Ellsworth Rourke says, hey, Roger, were you involved in the Mt. Gox theft? Only in the sense that I made that video for them saying that their banking problems or their withdrawal problems were being caused by the banks, not a lack of liquidity in the banks. So that allowed more people to leave more of their money with them. So I guess that delayed the collapse of Mt. Gox, but I certainly wasn't a hacker. I never stole any Bitcoins. I never got any special treatment as far as getting my own money out. So I guess the short answer is no. Chris 101 SB says, please explain how you came up with your brilliant plan to publicly mock Andreas Antonopoulos on Twitter in order to make him a millionaire. So I didn't mock him at all. If some people interpreted it that way, sorry, that was certainly not my intent. And I think in order to mock somebody, you have to have the intent of mocking them. So my intent was certainly not to mock him at all. I think my intent was actually just to point out that, hey, be a holder. You should not only talk the talk, but walk the walk as well. So be a holder. It wasn't intended to mock him at all. And this entire AMA is dedicated to Andreas, spreading the good word of Bitcoin. So thank you, Andreas. Although once again, please point out the censorship that's going on. If you support censorship-resistant currencies, you should support free speech online, and that hasn't been happening in the Bitcoin space recently. The pipe, I guess you say that, says, why do I do this on IAMA? Maybe I'll do that in the future. I don't know. I've never read much on IAMA, but maybe I'll do that in the future. Mary 7Y, why do you attribute Bitcoin's loss of market share to high fees, yet praise Ethereum so highly? I used to support you, but now it seems like everything you do is fake propaganda agenda setting for Bitcoin Cash, no matter if it's true or not. I'm not sure what you mean by that. So Ethereum has lower fees than Bitcoin Core. The Ethereum dev team openly and actively want want Ethereum to scale so that more and more people can use it. And they have the exact opposite mindset of Bitcoin Core. In fact, most of the people involved in Ethereum previously were Bitcoiners and wanted to build, Vitalik considered building Ethereum on top of Bitcoin Core, and he saw the things that the Bitcoin Core dev team were advocating and wanting to do, and he thought, well, wow, I better not build Ethereum on top of Bitcoin. I'll go and do my own thing. So you can thank Bitcoin Core for the fact that Ethereum isn't built on top of Bitcoin. Another Satoshi Nakamoto question I've already answered. Hello, Roger. Just a couple questions. Bitcoin Cash is up 12 to 13% as I type this. What do you say to people who say Bitcoin Cash is just a pump and dump? When we'll be able to purchase Bitcoin Cash from the Bitcoin.com wallet? Furthermore, do you think there's a high possibility Coinbase will have Bitcoin Cash? I already added most of those, answered most of those questions. I don't think Bitcoin Cash is a pump and dump. You have to look. If something has no utility, then maybe it is a pump and dump. But ask yourself, Bitcoin Cash enables you to send and receive any amount of money anywhere in the world instantly, basically for free, and nobody can stop it. It's being advertised big time on Bitcoin.com. It's being advertised on blockchain.com. It's now being integrated into Coinbase.com. It's being integrated into BitPay.com. It's being integrated all over the place. There's 1,000-something people watching this live stream right now. That's not a pump and dump. That's something with real utility that's going to spread to being used by people all over the world. So the short answer is Bitcoin Cash is not a pump and dump scheme at all. Daga says, do you still support Bitcoin Core? What do you think about Bitcoin Cash in 2018? I think I kind of answered both of those. Is it possible to have a virtual Bitcoin Cash Visa card similar to PayPal for the future project? I would like to have a physical card, but the shipping costs and custom may be a hassle. So every desire that anybody has anywhere in the world is a business opportunity. So I'm sure Ian Zaire, I can't pronounce the guy's name, sorry. If you think there's other people out there in the world like you that would want that, that's a business opportunity. So maybe you can figure out a way to provide that service for people and charge them for it. So Shaven Not Furred says, hi, Roger. What do you think about the continuous printing of US dollar tether? So another tether question. I already answered that previously, and the short answer is I know. So John McAfee claims he knows who Satoshi is. Do you believe him? There's a whole thread I don't think I've read that thread yet, to be honest. McAfee says in the next 3 years, Bitcoin Cash will win, whether you like it or not. Do you agree with 3 years? How many years would you estimate? Yeah, I think that's probably accurate. I think within 3 years, and I'd be really, really surprised if it wasn't within 5, and it might even be within 2018. Bitcoin Cash is useful, Bitcoin Core is not. So you don't have to be a core developer. In fact, I think the only people that can't figure out which one's going to win in the end are the core developers. If one's useful and one's not, the one that's useful is going to win out in the end. Gopnikuru, I don't know how to say that guy's name, says, hi, Roger. First, let me tell you that I have a lot of respect for you and your work. I started to invest in Bitcoin thanks to you. I saw you in a video and you were really inspiring. Here's my question. How do you handle the pressure? I'm not sure you receive death threats. I'm sure you receive death threats and all. Because of today, you're one of the few remaining people carrying Satoshi Nakamoto's vision. You're trying to save it from the banks. Yeah, I've gotten some death threats and I've gotten some crazy people. And people are texting me saying it's been 2.5 hours in. Keep it punchy and interesting. So I'll probably take a break soon. But yeah, to the people that are giving me death threats, yeah, stop. You can give up on your death threats. It's not going to stop me. You'd have to kill me to stop me. So, and you're not going to kill me either. So if you try and kill me, you're going to be the one who ends up getting killed. So don't even bother trying it. This is too exciting of a technology to stop. So of course I'm not going to stop. And I think the text messaging people are probably right. Maybe what I'll do is I'll take a break from now, and then we'll have people go and read through the rest of the thread and find the questions that are extra interesting that I haven't answered already. And I'll do a part 2 at some point, and I'll answer the questions that haven't been answered already. Anyhow, 2.5 hours, that's a long time. I definitely need some water. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Tell your friends about Bitcoin Cash, the real Bitcoin. Get them a Bitcoin.com wallet. Send them to Bitcoin.com to learn all about it. And support free speech on the internet. This is, one of the most important inventions in the history of the world, right there on par with the importance of the invention of the wheel or electricity or the internet itself. So tell your friends, tell your family, give them Bitcoin Cash Christmas presents. Tell them about the Bitcoin.com wallet. And yeah, thank you all. Over 1,300 people tuned in at the moment. So thank you guys so much for that. And a little bit later, once I have some water and we sort through the remaining questions, I'll answer the questions that didn't get answered already. So thank you all very, very much. I guess I'll close on one last thing though too. It's when you think you're the only person in the world that thinks one way and everybody else is saying something different, that's when it's the most important for you to speak out, because all these other people around the world, they might think, oh, am I the only one that thinks this? But then when they hear you out there saying those things that they're thinking quietly and not hearing from anybody else, they'll realize, oh, I'm not the only one out there, and then they'll feel emboldened to speak out. So if you think you're the only big blocker, or you're the only person that thinks that taxation is theft, or the only person that thinks the war is mass murder, say it, because there's probably a bunch of other people out there that think those same things too, and they're feeling alone until they hear you say it. So go out there and speak your mind. We're not here to be popular. We're here to spread the truth. So let's spread the let's spread the truth by telling them what we really think. So thank you guys all. Bitcoin.com.